Get to the Monday Night Doubleheader in due time. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. But got to start with 2 losses yesterday, Perloff. This was an odd day. There were some really highs and some really lows yesterday in sports. Obviously, we'll get to baseball. We'll get to football. But we had 2 prominent figures who passed away yesterday. One was Dikembe Mutombo. The other was Pete Rose, who both of these athletes actually played in your city. I know you've got some connections to Pete Rose, of course, the all-time hit king.
So my first job in sports, and actually you probably won't remember this, Pete Rose had a radio show. It was with Sports Fan Radio Network. Do you remember his show at all?
Barely.
It was like late 90s. And so I worked for Sports Fan Radio, and the sort of main show was Pete Rose. So Pete Rose was awesome at Sports Talk Radio. He wasn't just good. If he could have kept his act together and stay out of trouble, he could have been the greatest Sports Talk Radio host of all time. Now, it was weird because he was a great player, and he wasn't, but he knew he knew so much about every sport. Maggie, I'm telling you, and we probably know why.
Yeah, because he was probably gambling on every single bit of it.
But he was
not probably, he was gambling on every bit.
Yeah, he was incredibly insightful. What happened was he got in trouble for something, and I can't even remember what it was. That wasn't the gambling in sports baseball, but he was incredible. So in Philly, the other thing about him that I remember, this is my opinion of him, he wasn't the most talented player of all time, but there's not like a grittier. If you want to talk about it, the word grit, which is a new word that everyone uses, can you name a grittier athlete than Pete Rose?
No. And that was the whole thing about the nickname Charlie Hustle. It was given to him almost as like a derisive, type of thing. Like, oh, look at this guy, I wash, running to first base on a walk, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he embraced it. Like, this is who I am. And it's so funny that you would say that about him being great at Sports Talk Radio. And he was very good as a broadcaster on Fox for a very short amount of time.
What happened there?
Well, this is the whole thing about Pete Rose, is we're talking about the legendary baseball player who passed away yesterday, 83 years old. Turns out he was at an autograph signing 2 days ago.
Yep.
I mean, right up to the end of his life. But that's the whole thing about Pete Rose. Pete Rose always got in the way of Pete Rose. All of his great qualities, those gritty qualities that got him to where he was for baseball as MVP, as World Series MVP, as Rookie of the Year, as 3-time batting champion, obviously the hit king, most games played. All those things, those maniacal things that got him these great heights on the baseball field, he couldn't turn off with the rest of his life. So everything was fast. Everything was the most. And it was gambling. And it was women. And it was just fast cars. It was everything with Pete Rose. And he did get in trouble. There were allegations of statutory rape. I mean, these are the things that come up with a guy who, said, I didn't know. I thought she was 16. It's like, well, Pete, we're 32. And you were married. And she may have been 14 or 15. And you don't want to go straight to those things, Perloff. But you wonder what always got in the way of Pete achieving everything. He achieved so much on the baseball field. He exceeded his talent. You're so right about that, because of grit and sheer will and force and all of that stuff. But these were also things that held him back in his life, not just being forthcoming when he was nailed dead to right from baseball. If he had just come clean, but he didn't. He was defiant. He went on the attack to Bart Giamatti, who was the commissioner at the time. I think Giamatti wanted to, after the Dowd report, which was basically the report on Pete Rose's gambling, I think Giamatti wanted to cut a deal, right? I don't think he wanted Pete Rose to be banned permanently. I think Faye Vincent wanted him banned permanently. But I think Giamatti may have been open to him striking a deal, but we all know what happened. Just 8 days after Pete Rose was suspended, Bart Giamatti passed away of a heart attack.
I think that I understand all you're saying about off the field trouble.
Yeah.
I think the legacy, though, will be 2 things. Like, I think people remember him as a great player, and people remember him for not getting into the Hall of Fame. Those will be the future generations are not going to know all the off the field stuff at all, probably, because that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And I think the not Hall of Fame thing, I do think personally, I'm like, this is a debate that's been done many times on Sports Talk Radio. I think he should have been in the sports MLB Hall of Fame, but I think he made the most of that. Honestly, I think his fame tripled because he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Like, he made a career out of not being in the Hall of Fame. So I don't actually feel super bad for him. He said that he wanted to get in before he died, but he made the most of not being in something, for sure.
No doubt. His infamy was, I think, probably more profitable, if we're going to talk about it from that sense, and I think you can't help but dissect the two. The infamy was more popular, and again, he saw signing autographs up until literally the day before he passed away. This became part of the story. And he had said multiple times, I don't care about not getting in and being permanently banned from baseball and getting removed from the Hall of Fame ballots, which he is and has been. But he did get into the Cincinnati Reds, their own Hall of Fame. He was on the All-Century team. There are things of his in Cooperstown. And so, yeah, he doesn't have the plaque, but it's not like we have removed his career.
Right, but that's not the spirit of the debate. That has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, I mean, it's in the first sentence of his obit, really. Actually, I don't know if it is, but I can't remember. I mean, we do vague Hall of Fame debates. There's no Hall of Fame debate like Pete Rose. Like the steroid guys, we debate it once in a while, should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame, but it has not lasted like Pete Rose, which is incredible. But it's funny, too. I think of him as a Hall of Famer, kind of what you just said. Like, is Pete Rose a Hall of Famer? Yeah, of course he's a Hall of Famer. He just didn't get in on the gambling technicality. Now, that being said, I don't know that I trusted when he said he never bet. He never bet against his own team. Like, how do we know that? Once you're in that field, there's no way to know where the line was.
Well, of course, and he lied about it for 25 years.
Yeah.
So, his word wasn't what you loved about Pete Rose. If you love Pete Rose, you love the way he played baseball. You loved how he loved the game. You loved the stories he would tell and all of that stuff. It was not because you thought he was any kind of saint or that he was, and that's the other ironic part about Rose and the dichotomy of Rose, the two parts about him, is that he was always about playing the right way. But when it came to gambling, he couldn't do it the right way. And I know that he had a really tight relationship with Frank Robinson. And Frank Robinson, who was above reproach, I mean, like the salt of the earth. And Frank Robinson said late in his life, I saw Joe Posnanski had written about this, that he said Pete shouldn't be in the Hall. And that it killed Frank Robinson and it killed Pete, but they had talked so much about playing the game the right way as players that Frank Robinson couldn't in his good conscience then say, well, you should be in the Hall of Fame when you clearly broke this rule.
I have a question on Pete Rose. Is there a modern day Pete Rose? Is there a guy in baseball today who just wears out the other pitcher and is a menace on the base pass? Who reminded me a lot of him? Lenny Dykstra. Lenny Dykstra definitely modeled himself so much after Pete Rose. Like, basically, Lenny Dykstra would get up there, and I remember this very well. I don't remember Pete Rose at bats very well. He'd take 15 pitches and then ground out to third, and the pitcher was so exhausted. I think Pete Rose did that for the Phillies when he got there in 1980. Phillies had all the talent in the world, but they were missing one key ingredient, and Pete Rose just got in there and got them much tougher immediately. Like, when you have Pete Rose on the diamond, you just have to play like him. I think he was one of those guys. I don't know if we have that today, because now I think today's baseball, it's launch angle, it's
right.
take
looking
a walk.
At an iPad.
Yeah, it's trying to take as many walks as possible. It just feels like it's a less gritty game than it was in Pete Rose's day.
It's funny, Dykstra also has a lot in common with Pete Rose in terms of off the field. They both served time in jail for tax evasion or something like that. I forgot exactly what Dykstra's was. I think it was insider trading or something. I don't remember, but they both had this sort of off the field, things were out of control, and on the field it was like a controlled chaos.
Oh, totally. And they weren't, especially Pete wasn't a power hitter. I mean, think about it. He was a star who was not a power hitter, which is rare. You think of the 70s stars, Reggie Jackson, Mike Schmidt. These are all home run guys. Pete Rose was never a home run guy. And that's why I wonder how his stardom would translate today. I'm not sure you can really stand out without being a power hitter. We think of who are the great players of today. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Bryce Harper, Tatis. All home run guys. There's not a lot of utility. I mean, Pete Rose didn't even have a
Mookie Betts,
Betts is a huge power guy.
I know, but they're all power guys now. But he plays multiple positions. He can play infield and outfield. Like Pete Rose made the All-Star game, playing 5 different positions. I can see Mookie Betts being that guy.
Oh God, no! I think Betts is a massive power guy. I think you need a guy who doesn't hit any home runs and just is a great
Trey
guy.
Turner.
He's a home run guy too.
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
it's amazing.
Perloff.
I'm trying to.
No,
get
it's just it's amazing to me. Like Pete Rose really did not hit a lot of home runs. I mean, Tony Gwynn, I guess, but he's passed. It's interesting to me that his stardom. It just is everything you mentioned, Maggie. Just adds to the brew that has made him a much bigger star than anyone else really from his generation, from that 70s. Johnny Bench is greatest catcher of all time. He's not nearly as, the name Johnny Bench is huge,
right.
but Pete Rose has a whole different set of things. There was a documentary, we interviewed the director like 6 months ago. Like, he is documentary worthy for better or worse.
Absolutely. I know there's a Broadway play in the works about Pete Rose's career. I saw like a preview of it about a year ago, or maybe a little bit more now. So here's, I think, the ultimate question about Rose now, right? So much of his infamy was about not making it to the Hall of Fame, not being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and being permanently banned from baseball. Now that he's passed away, should he get in now? Like, is the punishment over? Now, it was not a lifetime ban. It was a permanent ban. That's different wording. But we know that you can change around rules and you can make amendments and stuff.
Know.
Now that he's passed away.
Now you put him in? That feels
cruel to me.
Yeah, it feels somewhat mean. Yeah.
Like it was that personal. That would feel very personal from baseball. We were keeping you out because as a punishment to you. But at the same time, is this now about the fans? It's not about Pete Rose anymore.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately he's passed away yesterday.
You're right. You can't put him in now. You have to wait some time, because otherwise it would feel like it was a vendetta against him by putting him now. No, you have to wait at least 5 years. But I don't know if they ever do it.
Wasn't it a vendetta though?
Well, it was, but I mean, he got caught gambling on baseball.
He put himself in that position. Our own Andrew Kaplan has a good comp.
Yeah.
Ichiro.
Yeah, well, Ichiro's, how long has he been retired?
No, but is the guy who didn't hit home runs, but was gritty, lead off.
Yeah, no, Ichiro, that's a great one. Do we have one today? I think, Tony Gwynn might be the last. Ichiro and Tony Gwynn. Now we don't have the 380 hitter who does not hit any home runs. I loved Pete Rose too. Just the image of him diving into third base when he totally doesn't need to.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I don't think guys do that as much now because they're getting paid so much money. They don't want to risk hurting themselves and hurting the team by breaking their wrists. Now guys have oven mitts when they slide into second base. Yeah. Pete Rose was just like a kamikaze out there.
Yeah, it was a different time. 855-212-4227. What do you guys think? Put him in the Hall of Fame now?
I say yes. I know. I think Perloff has a good point that it may sound cruel, but I still think about the fans. Yeah. And the fans want him in, and it's supposed to be the Hall of Fame is for these players, but it's also for the fans. And I think that if you poll the fans, they would definitely vote to put him in the Hall of Fame. I don't know how you do it. Do you put him back on the ballot? Is he a special choice? I don't know how the rules would set up.
Yeah.
I just feel like at this point, like, to me, I don't think putting him in is a deterrent from other guys saying, okay, now I'm going to go gamble on baseball. Like what Pete Rose went through, while he did profit off of it, he was kind of also a pariah. Like, I don't think people are going to, like, open themselves up to that.
But here's the thing. Pete Rose was a pariah for a lot of reasons, you're right. But there were so many times, and this was a credit to his baseball career, how many times sort of like society wanted to let him back in, if you will. You know, the Fox job, getting into the Reds Hall of Fame. All of these things were like, all right, Pete, let's open up the door. And then he's Pete Rose. He's going to find something that is going to make you go, ugh. It's like, Pete's personal life was, not model.
Not savory.
Let's put it that way. So, exactly. Nico, you're wearing a Pete Rose jersey, and how old are you?
I am 25.
You're 25, so you have absolutely less than zero recollection of Pete Rose managing, let alone playing. What brought you to buy a Pete Rose jersey?
So growing up, it was my dad's favorite player. Right. And when he taught us how to play baseball, he always said that he wanted us to play like Pete Rose. I would assume that part of that was because me and my brother are both small, and he knew that we weren't going to be power hitters. Sure. So he tried to make us into hitters that would be like, slapping it around all over the place. So I grew up in a household that was very fond of Pete Rose.
And did you achieve this goal?
My senior year, I batted .333.
Wow.
And
there you go.
A total of 0 extra base hits.
Yeah, did you?
Singles leader.
Did you choke up on the bat like Pete?
Oh, yeah, of course.
There we go. All right, you're welcome to in. So what does the Hall of Fame do now? 855-212-4227. I'll tell you what they have been doing for the last 20 years. Nothing. It's gone from commissioner to commissioner. Pete Rose's petition to try to get back into the baseball. Every commissioner, they just kind of ignore it.
No, I know. And I think you have to be sensitive to the fact that he just passed away and he wanted to get in before he died. Like, you can't put him in today. It just, I I think that would actually look worse. You had such a good point there. By the way, it's so weird. I can name the 1975 Reds. I think baseball players were more famous then. I mean, think about the Big Red Machine. They had a lineup with Johnny Bench, Tony Perez, Joe Morgan, Dave Concepcion, Pete Rose, Dave Concepcion, who I think was with Pete the other day, George Foster, Cesar Geronimo, and Ken Griffey. Like, back then,
no wonder they won so much.
Yeah, I mean, they won so much, but baseball was like, that was football.
Stars.
That was football in 1975. That was Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Travis Kelce. Like, that was the sport, too. And the funny thing about Pete Rose, he was in the 60s, too. Like, he was a young star in the 60s. You see old footage of something like Bob Gibson. Like, wait, there's Pete Rose. So he was really at a time when baseball was huge. It is not now, I don't think, but that's a great question. If we put that poll out, people are going to want to say Hall of Fame yes because they like Pete Rose, but they have to keep in that mind that caveat that you said that it is totally insensitive to his legacy to do it now.
It almost does feel a little bit like a grudge. It was a grudge, I think, against Pete, because I think in a lot of ways, Pete turned it into a grudge. He wouldn't admit for years that he bet on baseball. And then he still would never admit that he bet against the Reds. And unfortunately, his word, it's hard to take, right? Because he lied about so many different things. Spencer's in the chat, youtube.com/infinitysportsnet, says, Nico needs a bowl haircut to match the jersey. Can you give yourself a little bowl cut here? You're kind of like swooped to the side.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that comment.
There you go. If you want to watch the show, you can see Nico's jersey. 855-212-4227 is how you get in touch with the show. Should the Hall of Fame put Pete Rose in now posthumously? As he passed away yesterday. Also, remember the life of Dikembe Mutombo passed away yesterday.
What a life, too. What Dikembe Mutombo,
I know.
Forget the basketball. The work he did was incredible. His personality was incredible.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Go ahead. No,
as like a humanitarian.
Yes.
Which is funny because we would never say that about Pete Rose. Dikembe Mutombo had the amount Pete Rose gave back to the game of baseball. I think he was very generous with younger athletes and things like that. But a lot of people believe, that he didn't cheat the game, but obviously betting is against the rules. Mutombo was the guy who was the philanthropist, sitting on multiple boards, UNICEF, trying to bring, build hospitals in Africa and everything. He was so much more beyond what he meant to the world is so much more than even basketball.
Oh yeah. He was an ambassador of goodwill and a real diplomat too. Like did some serious work. And the other thing too is you hear nothing but positive things from anybody who ran into him. It seems like the nicest guy and funny as all get. I was watching clips of him on Conan O'Brien the other day. He was really likable. 58, way too young.
I know, and I don't think anyone knew that he was had a brain tumor.
No idea.
It's funny. We always talk about the big man. Nobody loves the big man, right?
No.
Wasn't that Wilt Chamberlain's line? No one roots for Goliath. But we look at Shaq as the guy who's obviously very comfortable in his own skin and all of that. Mutombo was a guy like that too.
Well, it's funny too because that Georgetown legacy, everyone disliked Patrick Ewing when he was playing. Turns out he's the coolest guy in the world. Then Alonzo Mourning was totally disliked. And then Dikembe was a little more like, but those guys are all the three of them are outstanding, really cool guys.
But they played nasty.
They played nasty, but the funny thing is they were not off the court. They were different. I'm not sure. Listen, Alonzo Mourning, I would not get on his downside, but obviously I think that
he's like a prince of a guy.
Right.
Yeah,
like
very
Patrick, we learned during the Dream
Yeah.
Team that Patrick Ewing is the best friend to all the stars, and Dikembe, the outpouring of love in the NBA world is crazy. It's totally deserved. I'm a huge fan, and also he was a good player for a little bit.
You're doing the finger wag.
I do the finger wag because that was the greatest summer of my life when he led the Sixers to the finals.
Yeah.
He did lead. I mean, Allen Iverson led them, but what a perfect fit. Him not doing anything on offense and letting Iverson shoot every time and then just shutting him down on D. Awesome.
And he was part of a team that was the first 8-1 upset, right?
Yes.
Denver over Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really big deal. Though it was best of 5 at the time. Not that it matters, but it was best of 5 at the time, and that was huge. He had a great career. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, massive. And now look at all the players, not that he was the first, he and Elijah did so much to open Africa. Look at how Joel Embiid MVP, Giannis MVP, obviously by way of Greece. But you know what I mean? It's that was huge for the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, Dikembe Mutombo, I don't think it's unfair to say he changed the world, and he definitely changed the sports world, because when we talk about just his basketball impact, not only was he building hospitals, doing all the great philanthropy work in Africa, he also was big in terms of kind of growing the game of basketball in Africa. Like, the reason why we just talked about some of these African teams like Sudan and people they didn't have courts. Like, I mean, building basketball courts, kind of really, being a true ambassador for the game. We see all these African players now. Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam, so many of these guys have had a great impact in the league, and a lot of that is because of the work that Dikembe Mutombo did. And we talk about him being a good player. I mean, he was a devastating defensive player in his prime. Like, legit, you could not go into the paint. You're talking about 4 or 5 blocks a game in his prime. I mean, he was a great player, a difference maker on the court. Just a shame, of course, to hear that he passed from something so terrible like brain cancer.
I know, 58 years old. So yesterday was a bizarre day. So we're remembering the lives of not only Pete Rose, but also Dikembe Mutombo. You're welcome to weigh in on that. We had a wild finish with baseball yesterday. The regular season wrapped up with both the Mets and the Braves punching their ticket to the postseason, which starts today. We had a doubleheader on Monday Night Football yesterday. Just a lot to do, and we're glad to do it with you. 855-212-4227. More Maggie and Perloff after this. All right, Pearl. You and I
got it.
Absolutely obsessed with Prize Picks.
I'm on fire, Maggie.
Last night, I was on fire also. Thank you, Lions running game.
Oh.
That was awesome.
Did you do Gibbs or Montgomery?
I did Gibbs.
I did Montgomery.
I was feeling great.
Everybody's a winner.
Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is so simple to use. You pick 2 or more players across any sport and then pick more or less on their projection, and you could win up to 100 times your money.
Prize Picks even invented the flex play, so you can still cash out if one of your picks doesn't hit. Fortunately for me, I'm on a little bit of a run right now. We'll see how it goes Tuesday. I'm going to have to study baseball really hard for this week. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code MNP to get a $50 credit instantly when you pay $5. That's code MNP on Prize Picks to get $50 credit instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states where it's lawful to wager. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Pete Rose passed away yesterday. Should baseball put him in the Hall of Fame now? Maggie and I both say it actually would not be kind to his legacy because he wanted to go in before he passed away, and they didn't do that. So to put him in now feels kind of cruel. I think if they do change their mind legacy-wise, I would give it a little bit of time to rest because I think the Rose estate would have a good argument like, wait, why couldn't you have done that 6 months ago?
Yeah, it depends, right? Was this about punishing Pete, which it was, about keeping him out because he gambled on baseball and then lied about it? Is it about the fans? Like, is it better for the fans to finally have him acknowledged as a Hall of Famer? You know, that it's unfortunately, you know, because he passed away yesterday, he's 83 years old. What a life. It is about his legacy. It is about his family, but is it now about the fans? Let's go to KJ. He's in Milwaukee. Good morning, KJ. You're on Maggie and Perloff. What's up?
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call, folks. Listen, first, before I get into conversation about Pete Rose, I would just like to say about the Dikembe Mutombo, one of the greatest defenders to ever play the game, even better person.
Yep.
Than that. The first real ambassador for international players for basketball in the league. And may his life be and memory be a blessing. In regards to Pete Rose, I think it's too soon to put him in. I feel like maybe the next commissioner might do that. I don't think Rob Manfred would be the person that would allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And,
to this point, Manfred has not had any. He's basically said no. You know, Pete applied for reinstatement with Manfred. He did it with Bud Selig. The answer is no.
Yeah, and I think that the next generation of fans will be more accepting and more forgiving for things like this. The old school fans, if you will, are probably more stringent in terms of, looking at
the
what
gambling.
he did.
You know, KJ, it's funny about that, and thank you for the call. Thanks for making it. It's funny because I agree with you. I think younger fans today, we see all the gambling money that has come into sports, and that doesn't mean you can bet on games, though. Like, the integrity of the sport has to be number one, but you do see the leagues taking all this money from the sports books, from casinos, and all that stuff, and it feels at times, Pearl, a little hypocritical. You and I have talked about this with the NFL.
Well, yeah. And baseball's coming to Vegas.
Right, and baseball's coming to Vegas. Of course it is. But then the other part of this is I think there are a lot of old school fans, quote unquote, who actually still think that Pete should be in.
Well, I think I think the new school is probably even more into Pete being in because of the gambling.
Sure, and the new school. But I actually think there are a lot of people, because if you saw Pete play, I think you believe that he should be in. I think this is an old school, new school kind of bridge the gap. I'm
not sure that's the dynamic, because I feel like the old school people are to keep the steroid guys out, and the young people are put the steroid guys in. Sure. Feel like, I have no idea. I feel like the young people are more lenient about their standards, and because gambling is so much more mainstream in the last 2 years because of legalized sports gambling, I feel like young people will put Pete Rose in. The old people might have felt burned by Pete Rose, finding out that he bet on his own team.
Sure.
And by the way, when he bet on his own team, he might have used the bullpen in different ways. So obviously, that even if he did bet on just the Reds, that's obviously a major problem for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, you think? And the way that the rule breaks down is if you're caught betting on baseball, not your own team, it's a 1-year suspension. If you're caught betting on your own team, that's where the permanent ban comes in. And so that's why for so long Pete was steadfast. I never bet on the Reds. Well, he did. Will's in California, and he admitted it in a book that he wrote in 2004. Will, good morning.
Well, good morning, Maggie. Morning, Andrew. Always nice to talk to you guys when I can't sleep and I'm writing, as usual. I got recollections of Pete Rose going back to my childhood later on when I played baseball in high school in the 70s. Pete Rose, whenever he drew a walk, he always ran full blast, full speed to first base. And I haven't heard anybody bring that up yet. Part of the Charlie Hustle mystique.
Yep.
Back in the day, Maury Wills, Lou Brock, he was a slap hitter. I mean, later on down the line, more like Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn that you had mentioned, okay? But the memory I had, in high school, this means some of our team, we went to a Dodger game, and it was a Reds game, and Rose was out in right field, okay? This is after he pretty much roughed up a much smaller guy named Bud Harrelson, okay?
Yeah.
Well, they threw everything but the kitchen sink out of those bleachers at Rose.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. One more thought.
There was like a lawlessness to baseball that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe the last A's game at the Coliseum, you saw a little bit, people setting off smoke bombs and stuff like that, and they were obviously feeling very sad about their team leaving. But storming the field, throwing stuff, the disco demolition stuff from Detroit, all of that.
I'd say the Rose Harrelson fight is probably the most famous baseball fight of all time. I don't even know what's...
Monday,
well, the Robin Ventura.
Flag, in Chicago.
No, right,
and the disco people burning the records and whatever. One last thought, okay? And I flip-flop back and forth in my life on this whole, should he be in the hall or not, okay? And Tim Kirchin mentioned it today. They got a sign over every clubhouse that says no gambling, okay? This existed for years, okay? But my feeling is, okay, this is not a church, okay? It's more like a museum. And the first man inducted into that Hall of Fame was probably the biggest SOB that ever walked the foot of the earth, but he was a hell of a player named Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
Okay? And I've read the biographies on this man, okay? He beat a black hotel porter within an inch of his life.
Oh, Ty Cobb was a horrible racist.
And he could never go back into that state. But there were no extradition laws back then. And he avoided that state for the rest of us because they would have apprehended him.
Yeah.
But
no, Will, I get it. You're talking about there are plenty of bad actors, bad agents who have made it into the Hall of Fame. And Will, thank you for the call and the memories. And there might even be guys who actually did take steroids. I mean, there's a couple.
Oh, sure. Oh, definitely.
Eyebrow raised on a few guys. And so do you keep them out? Like, the thing is, it's totally different to me on that. Rule broken. Obvious. Admitted.
Uh-huh.
Had him dead to right. No pun intended.
Now I'm distracted thinking about what's the greatest fight in Major League Baseball history, because I felt like the Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura was not a fight. That was a beatdown. That was a father beating up a little kid on the sideline. But it is totally iconic. Also,
probably Pedro, Don Zimmer. That's pretty iconic.
That's a good one. Again, that's not, but like,
it's not a fight.
The Harrelson Pete Rose was in the playoffs, and it was a brawl. I mean, that was a fight. Like back then, they used to fight. Wasn't there a
Red Sox Yankees in I believe this 1977 was a huge one too.
Wasn't there a huge? What didn't Darryl Strawberry get slugged or slug somebody? That was terrible. Remember there was like a cheap shot with Armando Benitez and
that was Yankees Orioles.
Yep.
Oh, okay. But there was also but I was reading a story. The New York Magazine calls it the greatest brawl in baseball history, Harrelson versus Rose. It was crazy. If you want to look at a highlight of how intense Pete Rose was, check that out. I mean, he would come into the shortstop.
Batista too.
What's that? Oh, Rougned Odor Batista. I mean, that was one punch.
You should see Pete Rose coming into the shortstop. Like back then, spikes high. Oh, man, that was baseball.
Bogusch is here with headlines for us. You want to weigh in on the greatest baseball fight of all time?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Your headlines are sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at Progressive.com. We were told it was entirely unimportant, but game 161 of the baseball season was pretty good. The Mets had done nothing for 7 innings in Atlanta, and then...
And Nimmo clocks one to deep right field. White goes back, takes a look, and it's out of here! Brandon Nimmo puts a hammer down with a 2-run homer!
From down 3-0 to up 6-3 in 1/2 inning. But since they're the Mets, closer Edwin Diaz forgot to cover first base on an inning-ending ground ball. So the bottom of the 8th continued, and the Braves took advantage.
Here's a 3-1 to Albies. Swinging a fly ball to left, pretty well hit. Back goes Nimmo, it's over his head. One hops the wall, the Braves may take the lead. The ball caroms into the gap. 2-run score, 3-run score. The Braves have taken the lead 7-6.
And that's when we all died. But even though they're the Mets, this happens top 9.
Now he hits a fly ball that's pretty well hit to deep right center, and this ball is out of here. Lindor has just golfed one out, and the Mets lead 8-7. A 2-run homer by Lindor, and New York has the advantage. Oh my goodness, what a baseball game.
And then it was finally over.
The dog snuck into the booth with Howie Rose.
The Mets, an 8-7 thriller to open yesterday's doubleheader in Atlanta. They clinched a wild card spot. Then the Braves won game 2, 3-zip to claim the other opening. So the Mets play in Milwaukee. Atlanta's in San Diego. Best of 3s that begin today. Braves ace Chris Sale did not pitch game 2 because of back spasms, and they are not optimistic about him being available for this San Diego series as well.
2 questions for you guys. One, you guys were aware that the Mets could have lost that game and won game 2, right? Like they were going to win game 2. Second of all, do you really party after that game with such a quick turnaround?
Tough. I think you got to put a limit on it. You got to realize like the euphoria of that has to be celebrated, but you can't go too over the top and get blindly stinking drunk because you got a game today at 5:30.
But the Lindor home run, for example, is that a great all-time home run knowing that the Braves clinched like 5 hours later? Like,
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes. It's an
but it didn't
all-time
matter.
thing.
You were going to get in anyway.
We don't know that. You just don't know. And to me, I'll be honest, like watching the Braves, a team that I hate but respect in terms of like their baseball mettle, their the way they approach the game, they looked not right for about 6-7 innings in that game, that second game. I watched that game and I said, wow, if this was the Mets, they would be really struggling to win game 2.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Braves, a team who you would put their baseball character up with any other organization, the fact that they struggled as long as they did told me my team that folds at the sight of any kind of trouble would have absolutely lost game 2. They had to win that game 1.
I agree.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah, like this one,
you guys
are going to
taking
have to agree with us. You're talking about 3 Mets experts living the life, and you can say I understand your point. But had the Mets lost 7-6 after being down 3-0, up 6-3, their closer has an all-time meltdown. They lose that game 7-6. There is no guarantee that they win the second game.
And
there just isn't.
Lindor's also hurt too. Like he has a bad back. Like he was like when they asked him after the game, like how do you feel? He was like, I'm hurt and I'm tired. He was a CM Punk rant basically. Like he's banged up too. So the idea of him having to go back out there and play, can he even play a second game? Like that, there was a lot of concern about another game where you had to win.
Yes.
The other thing, too, is if Luis Severino goes out tonight and throws, 7 shutout innings, we're going to look back on the Lindor home run and say the Mets wouldn't have had Severino in Game 1 against the Brewers.
They might have won 2 games last night.
Also, I could have seen Severino giving up 5 runs in the first inning.
Yeah, that too. Like
he's not exactly like the ace of aces. So anyway, there was a lot going on yesterday.
The Mets Braves, that first game, everything that was not what Titans Dolphins was at night. 3 quarterbacks combining for 206 passing yards and 0 touchdowns, but Tennessee did get 127 and 2 scores on the ground from Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears for a 31-12 win in Miami. Mason Rudolph was under center most of the night for those Titans because Will Levis hurt his right shoulder on their second drive. Rudolph happy to get head coach Brian Callahan his first win.
Feels great to win, to get Callie his first big one down on primetime football, but it's always good to celebrate in the locker room, and for a coach's first win, it's big time.
No offensive issues in Detroit. Meanwhile, the Lions outscored the Seahawks 42-29. They combined for over 900 yards of production. Jared Goff was 18 for 18, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 receiving. Those are the most passes without an incompletion in NFL history. The Cowboys apparently preparing for Micah Parsons to miss Sunday night's game in Pittsburgh with that ankle injury, and the Mountain West reportedly working on adding UTEP as a full member. It would still need 1 more to remain an official league. Guys, back to you.
I don't know what we're going to do with all this realignment information. How are we going to commit this all to memory? I have no idea. Anyway.
You'll be okay if you don't know where UTEP is.
Listen.
Tim Hardaway's very offended by that.
I feel like if there was some kind of test we had to pass to become like broadcasters in sports, which I have had to pass those kind of tests working for certain places. If they did conference realignment, I'd be like, that's all right. I'm going to go to law school. There's no shot I'm going to be able to get this.
UTEP makes perfect sense. Texas State possibly being in the Pac-12. That's the one I probably can't accept. So save your angst and you're studying for that one.
Got a head in the books. Bogusch, thank you so much. We're going to unpack all of this. We have that Cowboys news that Bogusch just mentioned about Micah Parsons. We've got more Christian McCaffrey updates for you for our Niner fans in the Bay Area. And, of course, we had 2 games last night, both with some big implications, in my opinion, even if the first one wasn't exactly a barn burner. All that and more next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie. Great, Andrew Perloff. All right, well, this one wasn't exactly tape that's going to be sent to Canton, Pearl. The Dolphins and the Titans. It was brutal, a brutal watch. All you need to know is that Will Levis got knocked out of the game. Mason Rudolph came in, and the Titans look a lot better. And so the idea that Coach Brian Callahan would say Levis is still the starter, if you're a Titans fan, you got to be pulling your hair out. Like, the offense looks so much better with Rudolph. Why would you ever go back to Levis?
Well, lucky break for Titans fans that Levis got hurt. But I think Rudolph only threw the ball 4 times in the second half. So who knows? I mean, Rudolph, it wasn't lighting the world on fire either. I mean, the Dolphins obviously are a mess. Beating them doesn't prove anything. But the Levis experiment, they're going to ride this. And I guess I get it. Like, what is the point of going Mason Rudolph here? You're not making the playoffs with either quarterback.
Well,
so at least see something.
You might with Rudolph, though. That defense looked really good. Again, you're right, Miami, not the best litmus test. But to me, the AFC South doesn't look as scary as it may have. Yeah, Houston's good, but the Jags are showing you nothing. And the Colts have their starting quarterback is hurt, too, and Anthony Richardson. There's an avenue and a lane here. The AFC feels a little more wide open than we ever thought. And then on the second part, it's just about not turning the ball over. That's the problem with Levis. He's probably has more talent than Mason Rudolph. Okay, baby, I'll give you there. But he can't stop putting his team in a bad position with the turnovers.
Okay, but think about you. You're the GM and you're the coach. What you just and I personally, I would have started Mason Rudolph in week 2. I get it, but they're all in on this Will Levis experiment.
Why? A different regime drafted him.
Well, they have to figure out, are we drafting a quarterback? I mean, listen, I get it. He's made terrible mistakes, but what's the point? I don't think they'll make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph.
I mean, you got a better shot. You're definitely not making it with Will Levis. And, yes.
Then where do you go? I mean, you're not contending. Even though
this was always a bizarre offseason for the Titans because you went in and got skill position players. And, you're signing Calvin Ridley and you're making these moves that are, along with you have DeAndre Hopkins, you got Tyler Boyd. You're making these moves that would kind of signal contender. And the defense is not bad.
They got destroyed by Malik Willis.
That was not great, but they were right there with the Jets. And they should have beaten the Bears if not for Will Levis.
Yeah.
It's not like the Titans are this awful team. It's Levis keeps putting them in terrible spots.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't it's funny, like we're arguing about this. Doesn't feel silly to argue about. We're doing Mason Rudolph versus Will Levis.
Listen, this is our life.
I just watched that game last night. It just doesn't feel like this year. This year feels like a building year for Brian Callahan in his first year. You know who he reminds me of? And this is going to sound good to Titans. He's Zach Taylor 2.0, who was terrible in his first year with the Bengals, but clearly like just did not have his team in place because they're really not all on the same page in Tennessee. Even in the win, you can see that. I would continue to run every play. Just Pollard and Spears. That is the key to victory for them.
Now, on the flip side, maybe if you don't find the Titans that interesting, although now DeAndre Hopkins being talked about in some trades, like there are some big decisions that have to be made. But as far as the Miami side, I'm glad you mentioned about the Titans losing to Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers. Because Matt LaFleur is kind of known as this offensive guy, right? Offensive genius. Well, I think Mike McDaniel also got that label, right? He's the one who resurrected Tua's career. He's the one who's doing so much with Tyreek Hill and with Jalen Waddle, and how good this is. Well, you saw the Packers. They don't have nearly the offensive weapons in name that the Dolphins do. They went down to a backup quarterback that got there 14 days before he had to start a game because of injury. Why doesn't it look any better for Miami? Do you think Mike McDaniel deserves any kind of criticism? Because I get it, you're down to your third quarterback because Skylar Thompson was so bad. But we've seen other coaches be able to still run a competent offense even with a backup quarterback, and that's not what's happening with Miami.
That's funny. I never thought about, is Mike McDaniel at fault here? Because Snoop Huntley looked terrible yesterday. He doesn't have it's a little different than Malik Willis was at least on a roster. Snoop Huntley was on a practice squad. He's clearly not really ready to be an NFL quarterback right now, especially without time to learn the playbook.
Right, but Skylar Thompson was there. The whole training camp, won the job over Mike White. And then
they would have looked better with Skylar Thompson last night. So who knows? I mean,
would they have? I mean, Thompson didn't look good either.
He looked way better than Snoop Huntley did last night.
Snoop Huntley did not look good. 14 for 22 for 96 yards.
You can't blame Snoop Huntley at all.
I'm not. I'm blaming Mike McDaniel.
But I'm blaming the GM. I think you should have had Joe Flacco there waiting behind Tua. And
if Tua didn't want Mike White in the building, he doesn't want Joe Flacco.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. You have to be stronger as a front office and stand up to your quarterback who you just paid. That's what the money's for. If there's any team in the league that should have a strong backup, I think they got overconfident in Tua's health after last year, and that was a mistake.
Can I tell you what I think is going to happen after watching that game last night? Tua's coming back. They talked about it for maybe a full quarter on the broadcast, if anyone was still paying attention by the third quarter. The entire third quarter, at least 3 series of it, felt like it was a ode to Tua, which he deserves, about how it's his decision, about how he feels guilty for not being out there with his team, all these things. I think he's playing again this year, and it's going to be uncomfortable for all of us to watch, especially if he gets hit again and has another concussion and another fencing pose, and we're talking to Chris Nowinski again from the Concussion Legacy Foundation and doing that whole thing again, Pearl, but I think he's coming back for sure. They're going to try to save this season. And McDaniel not being able to hold the fort with a backup quarterback or any kind of semblance when you have, again, Hill, Waddle, and Devon Achane. You've got dudes, and they can't do jack on offense.
But what's the point of, what's the high end? Does anybody think the Dolphins are going to make noise in the playoffs? Why would you rush this guy back? I'm not sure there's an ends to a means to an end here. Where is the Dolphins going to go even with Tua? They have kind of an easy schedule, but maybe they sneak in the wild card game and lose another playoff game.
I'm just saying, I think they believe themselves to be a playoff team this year. I don't know who's on the hot seat or what's going on with that. And I think the AFC is cracked wide open. We're only 4 games into a 17-game season. We got a lot of football left.
Well, they just extended Mike McDaniel in the offseason, so I don't think he's on the hot seat necessarily, but I feel like this is already a lost season.
But this is the thing about adding the extra game. The season's so long. I don't know if you can ever really say that. If Tua comes back in 2 weeks, you still have all this time.
I didn't even like the Dolphins coming into this season. First of all, it's not just to it. Their whole defense is always up and down with injuries. So that's an even bigger part of this.
Lost Jalen Phillips last night, too.
I don't know where they're headed. You're going to rush Tua back to, go 7-10? I just don't see the point.
Is the season salvageable for Miami? And coming up, did a new MVP candidate enter the chat? I'll tell you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Jared leans in. There's the snap. Jared on the end around gives it to Amon-Ra. He's going to throw it to Jared. It's on the 5 to the end zone. Jared Goff. Oh, Maggie on the receiving end of a pass from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, Ben Johnson, I see you too. That is beautiful stuff. That is Monday Night Magic.
Lions radio. Big win for the Lions, 42-29. This was a great game. I mean, I can nitpick Perloff, and welcome to the show, by the way, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We can nitpick about a couple bad calls here or there or what have you, but this was a barn burner until about 4.5 minutes left to go in this game. It was back and forth. The final score, I don't think, really tells the story. This was an amazing game. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. If you're a Seahawks fan, you've got to be just waking up sick to your stomach today, though, after having been in striking distance, not being able to finally close the gap.
Yeah, I think you have to stop them from getting a first down at some point to expect to win. Obviously, the Seahawks came in way shorthanded on the front line. They knew it was going to be a tough assignment, but they just got bowled over defensively. This was a great game. It reminded me so much. Remember when the Jared Goff and the Rams beat the Chiefs 54-41 in primetime? It was like that kind of game. In a year where we haven't got any passing, we really haven't gotten much offense. Everything delivered last night. Honestly, Geno Smith, the Seahawks quarterback, was just as spectacular.
Geno under duress.
Oh my God.
Attempted 56 pass attempts last night, and they were playing from behind for most of the night, so you had to do it. But when I tell you how many tackles and how many sacks did he escape from last night? It felt like they had him almost down 4 or 5 different times. And it's like, oh, nope, here's Geno rolling out to the right, finding a receiver.
Unbelievable. I mean, I think the Lions probably got into a little bit of a prevent mode on defense because the second half they were letting the Seahawks do whatever they wanted. I think that it's funny, too. The Lions were like, well, they can't stop us anyway. Go ahead. Give the ball to Kenneth Walker, let him run into the end zone. We're just going to destroy you on offense. I actually was thinking, I had this thought, and tell me if you relate to this. Man, I probably should have picked the Lions to come out of the NFC.
I've been waiting for this sort of offensive explosion, and you finally saw it last night. And so here's the stat line I think a lot of people are going to be pointing to. You heard the highlights of the Philly special there with Amon-Ra St. Brown, the first pass attempt he's ever had in college or the pros, and it was a beauty. Jared Goff was kind of covered a little bit.
Yeah, I know. That was the amazing part. Usually in the Philly special, the guy's wide open.
That's the whole
Goff
point.
had to beat coverage. Number 50 was right on him.
That was the whole point. Nick Foles was wide open, Tom Brady dropped the pass at the Super Bowl. Like this one, Goff was kind of covered. But it goes for a touchdown. But Jared Goff, 18 for 18, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And it was a perfect game. I mean, it is as close as you can come, obviously 18 for 18, but he was playing a perfect game.
Well, I mean, I saw a stat. I think a huge percentage of that was after the catch. I don't think he threw the ball more. Like, basically, David Montgomery bowled over 7 Seahawks defenders to get a 40-yard gain. Then Jameson Williams ran for, what was that?
70 yards.
And it flew. So it was a perfect game, except it was kind of a dink and dunk game, too. That's how he got to 18 for 18.
Yes, there was a lot of yards after the catch. There's a lot of screen passes. The Jameson Williams definitely helped. But what's the difference between that and what Brock Purdy does? So, and this is the only reason why I bring that up is because I think Jared Goff became an MVP candidate last night. And it's not that he hasn't been in the past, and he was last year flirting with it. I just think you put an 18 for 18 game, that's going to catch people's attention, even if a lot of those yards did come after the catch. It's not his fault he's got all these weapons. That's what everyone would say about Purdy, so why not say it about Goff?
Well, because Purdy resets the pocket about 40 times a play. Like, Purdy's mobile. They're totally different styles. Purdy does not stop running. In fact, he has to stop running. He's getting ridiculous.
But the 49ers literally call themselves the Yak Kings. Yards after the catch. This is what they hang their hat on. And it was people like me who said, geez, is Purdy really the MVP? Because he's just distributing it to these great playmakers. I'm seeing the same thing with Goff. Why wouldn't he be an MVP candidate?
Well, I don't even think he's the MVP of the offense. I mean, I think they have one special weapon. I mean, they have one thing that makes them a Super Bowl favorite. It ain't Jared Goff, and it ain't Jameson Williams, and it ain't Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he is...
I wasn't sure if you were going to go with the tackles there or what you were going to say.
Well, they are by far the best running back team in the league right now. I looked at the stats. They're 6th in rushing overall, but the teams above them are all running quarterbacks. There is no running attack like Montgomery and Gibbs. It's what makes them, to me, that's why they're a Super Bowl threat. And Ben Johnson is in his bag on run. Goss got 2nd and 3 every play because basically, Ben Johnson, they just don't know where the run is coming from with either Montgomery or Gibbs. It's an incredible formula. It reminds me of an old school 80s and 90s football. We haven't seen this in forever.
Well, the running game is back.
Yeah, but this is a running back, very driven team. And I guess you get that with McCaffrey, but the Niners and Kyle Shanahan have a different thing going on. I mean, Ben Johnson last night was it was a shootout. It's I am going to stick with the run. And you don't see that anymore. That's why I think the Lions are crazy dangerous.
They are. 855-212-4227. Couple calls here and there. Couple of them, I get it if you're a Seahawks fan. The 2-point conversion to DK Metcalf upon review looked like it was actually good. And while you would say, oh, this 2-point conversion, it was, in the third quarter, right? When this came, why would that be so important? Well, it kind of was, because at the time you had the Seahawks trailing by 2 scores. And they talked about this a lot on the broadcast, about the analytical side of this, of when do you go for 2 when you're down by 14. And so it ended up being a rather big play in the game, even though we had a lot of drives after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Lions, Jared Goff didn't miss a pass. I'm not sure that's that. DK Metcalf 2-point conversion made a difference.
It felt like it in the moment, though, didn't it?
Well, it was so annoying to describe when they tried the first 2-pointer and then they had to go back and do the extra point. And
they actually got a pass interference on it that set up at the 1, and then they missed a fade.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you don't stop the other team. But remember, they had 4 defensive linemen out. So I think the Seahawks can look at this as an aberration. They just could not really slow anybody down.
And be honest, they actually had even another opportunity where after a trick play to JSN, right? They had 4th and, let's see, early in the 4th, they had Tyler Lockett negated a first down with pass interference. And it was this great play to JSN, but because he sort of ran into the defenders as a blocker and it didn't show exactly that he was running a route, they called him for a pass interference. And they're going to call that all the time, but tough. Because this is a real back and forth game. It was a lot of fun. The complete opposite of the Miami game. This one was great.
Yeah. So, okay, but you're not getting into this Lions Super Bowl talk with me. What do you think? We both picked the Packers.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like the Lions might be better. I understand you're scared that Dan Campbell's going to blow it.
Yeah.
I just think that the Packers have a good run game too, but I just think that you're going to hit with Gibbs and Montgomery are just such a perfect thunder and lightning. I just think that they can control the ball, keep that defense off the field, which obviously Terrion Arnold, that first-round pick, he's a disaster. He's a hot mess. They got to get him off the field, but basically get the lead, have Aiden Hutchinson wreak havoc. This feels like a Super Bowl formula to me. I'm totally into the Lions.
I mean, Brian Branch wasn't even playing last night, right? They said he was sick and something else. I forgot what his thing was.
Yeah, their back 4 is not good. Their back 7 is not good. But you got Hutchinson. Geno Smith was just Houdini last night. I don't know how he avoided the pressure all night long.
And you had Carlton Davis called for 3 different pass interference calls for the Lions. So again, there's stuff to clean up, but they win the game 42-29. And I thought the story, it's obviously the offense, whether you want to talk about the run game, whether you want to talk about Goff having a perfect game, the Philly special with Amon-Ra St. Brown, there was just a lot to like about what happened in Detroit. And it feels a little like their offensive coordinator keeps doing this job interview.
Well, he
doesn't want to take a job as a head coach. They're offering him jobs. Like, other organizations want to hire him. And I feel when you do these kind of trick plays and fun stuff on Monday Night Football, when you know you have a big audience, to me, it always seems like the coordinators are auditioning for head coaching jobs.
No, I relate to Ben Johnson. You know why? I know it's going to be a little silly, but when I'm playing EA college football and I get to only just be the offensive coordinator during the beginning of my time building Hawaii, that was the most fun I had. Not having to worry about the defense, just sitting there, just calling plays, pass plays left and right. I was like, you know what, Ben Johnson, I see this. I know why you don't want to be a head coach. Who wants to worry about the defense and special teams and all that crap? You just go out there and just get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and throw the ball around the yard. It's a great job. I get it now.
Well, you have to wonder, did anyone throw Ben Johnson's address on Snapchat after they lost last year in San Francisco so that fans are showing up at Dan Campbell's house just to heckle his daughter?
Yeah, it was a classmate too. It was her daughter. Yeah, which was wild.
That was a crazy story. But Ben Johnson was also part of calling those 4th down plays, and I don't think anyone showed up at his house.
And that's what I wanted to ask you guys though, because both of you guys are hiding the Lions today, and for good reason. They played great last night. But 2 questions: 1, do you still trust Dan Campbell? And 2, do you trust the defense? Because as you guys mentioned, they had a lead and they held it, but like it was really
Barely.
only because the Lions kept scoring.
But
that's why they held the lead.
They definitely went into prevent mode. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they didn't. Their safeties moved a mile back at the end of the game.
But they did blow a lead to the Niners last year. They didn't hold that lead. So
I'm not sure last. Like I was ever. I mean, their win probability never dropped below 85%. I mean, I definitely think they laid off the gas defensively. They were just giving so much space to guys. They're like, you could beat us, just don't beat us fast. That's what I think. I mean, their defense has been pretty good this year. Ben Johnson, can you remember an offense coordinator who's this hot? Maybe Shanahan in 2012. This is unprecedented. Like, he's no doubt calling the best plays like in the league. He's blowing Shanahan away.
As far as, and I think Goff is an MVP candidate today. I didn't check the odds if they changed at all. But look at Mahomes is not having this like outstanding year. Josh Allen, they just lost. I don't think Lamar Jackson gets a third without winning a Super Bowl. Who else is out there?
I mean, I think honestly Goff is a bigger concern than Dan Campbell. Like he avoided the bad play last night, but that's been the story of the season.
Right. So we were waiting for a clean Jared Goff game, and you got one yesterday. Again, Seahawks defense is definitely banged up. Yeah. It's fascinating. Do I trust Dan Campbell? No. He hasn't earned your trust. And it's not even the 49er game, although that's a big part of it, even going back to the Cowboy game. That was a game that they should have had. And it felt like undisciplined from Campbell. And I don't think anything's going to change because this is who they are. And the fourth down plays and the aggressive plays, that's just the identity of the team. And Dan Campbell isn't going anywhere. They love this. Can you imagine you're a Lions fan, you've been in the wilderness, in the desert, you've been a laughingstock, a punchline, and finally you've got this team?
It feels like last year remember the Chiefs lost to the Patriots in overtime in 2018?
Yes.
And they were just had to get over a hump. That's what this team feels like to me. Like every champion has a bad loss in the conference final, conference title game. I think that was last year. I think they were building up to something. It might not be this year, but to me, they feel like they're building up to a championship. I mean, their drafts have been insane. They've made so many brilliant moves. Penny Sewell, you mentioned Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Campbell. Like they're on fire. They've had more All-Pros drafted since 2018 than any other team in the league. Like this is all coming together. If you could keep Ben Johnson, I think this is a really dangerous team.
How important is it for them to get home field advantage throughout? And honestly, beyond now the Packers and the Vikings, who have clearly entered the conversation here, this is going to be important to them. And the weather, wasn't a thing that night in San Francisco, but how important to get the home field?
Well, who are they competing with? It's really them. I mean, the Niners are not getting it. They're way too injured. Nobody in the NFC East is getting it. So maybe the Bucs. Are we looking at the Bucs? Feel like they're going to come back to the pack a little bit. So I think it's like the Lions and the Packers.
Yeah, I think the division
or
race
the Vikings
and the Vikings. This is the most important race they have.
Wow. I don't know that the home field is that important. Like going to Minnesota, it's kind of the same thing. Indoor.
No, but I don't know if you want
Minnesota will blow a big game.
I don't think you want to go to Green Bay. And they've won in Green Bay.
I don't know. Yeah, we've said that many, many years. It's been a long time since the Packers have been great in the playoffs at home.
Yeah, but the Jared Goff weather stuff, again,
that's true.
I think
that's a good point.
Yeah, but it's like in San Francisco, what was the weather that night of the NFC Championship?
It was a nice day.
It was like balmy.
Yeah.
He's from California.
But you would think, though, the way the Lions play, the physicality, the toughness, I know Goff, maybe we don't think of that, but everyone else on the team, you would think that should travel anywhere.
I think they hand the ball off pretty much as much, if not more, than any team in the league. Maybe the Ravens more, but they're built. This run game makes them so dangerous. I honestly, I was talking to EJ, I think Gibbs is the number one running back in the league. I know there's McCaffrey, I know there's Saquon Barkley, but nobody hits a hole like him. He's unbelievable. I can't keep my eyes off him. And then you have Montgomery taking all the hard work off, so that frees up Gibbs to only have a few runs. It's a great formula. And Montgomery. Does anyone not love David Montgomery? That guy is...
I do. He's on my fantasy team.
He's one of the weirdest, most likable guys because he's been a journeyman and he just runs so hard.
Let's hit our pal Ramon, who's in Indianapolis. Good morning, Ramon.
Hey, how you doing, Maggie and Perloff and everybody else? Thank you for taking my call. I hadn't spoke to you all in a while. I've been running, but you guys really got the razor's edge going here. I just want to ask you guys, did you see that quarterback fest in the other game? Tyler Huntley and Mason Rudolph. Wow, that
fever.
was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. trying to make the best of a bad situation, though.
Problem getting quarterbacks. I mean, we keep looking at the top-heavy part of the league, and you talked about golf, and that was phenomenal. That 18 for 18, I think that was Seattle's downfall. If they couldn't get them off the field, that was just a problem. But there's a problem in that bottom 12, I guess, because I forgot Mason Rudolph was even in the league. And then I wanted to ask you guys something. Why does Justin Herbert keep getting the break? They got the ball with 4 minutes left, down 7 at home, and they lost that game. Why does Justin Herbert keep getting a pass? Harbaugh was brought there for that. They had the perfect situation to show up, and they didn't show up. I didn't hear anybody crush him yesterday.
He's hurt. He's so hurt. How can anybody crush him? The defense was crushing him. The guy can't move. He's got, it was plantar fasciitis, which has now screwed up both legs completely. He's a mess. That's why I think he gets a pass, right?
I think so, because he's tough. But, I mean, Ramon's right. You are out there. You're in a one-score game. It's the Chiefs. You're home. I know Kansas City fans invaded that stadium. But there is something about Justin Herbert where we always have asked, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see the big moment? And whether it's coaching with Brandon Staley, whether it's him being hurt and playing through injuries, there's always been something where we have not put the full onus on him.
I just think if you look at that Chargers team and you're talking about anything besides injuries, then you're not paying attention. They are just, I think they must have the worst medical staff in the history of the earth. I mean, everybody's hurt all the time. All the time. I mean, Joey Bosa still looked like he was so comfortable in the stands, because you see me in the stands more than you see me on the field. They built an old injury-prone roster. So I'm not looking at Herbert. And I think most people are with me. You can't blame Justin Herbert for that loss.
You get the ball back, to Ramon's point, with 6 minutes left to go. It's 17-10.
You have not literally moved the ball since the first quarter.
Yes, they had not scored since the first quarter. But again, is this not winning time? And you have an incomplete pass to Hayden Hurst, and then you're sacked on 3rd and 11.
Yeah, you were getting...
And then you give the ball back to the Chiefs with 3 minutes left to go. You're not getting the ball back.
So wait, just to be clear, so you are putting this on Justin, or you agree with Ramon?
I've always kind of thought that Justin Herbert has skated a little bit, but yeah, he's out there playing hurt. But again, you're out there.
Okay. No way. There's just no way you came away from that game saying Justin Herbert lost the Chargers this game.
No.
To me, you might.
But here's the thing. If you're just going to say the Chargers are so injured, they don't have a chance, then, what's Harbaugh going to do?
I mean, he's going to rebuild a team, and I think that's why Harbaugh needs a little bit of time to get his own roster. I mean, maybe they make the play. They definitely could make the playoffs this year, but I think you got to give Harbaugh 2 or 3 years to sort of reinvent it, bring in a lot of the college guys he knows.
But that's not why you give Harbaugh. It's not the 2 or 3 years. It's the right away. He's the change, the game changer instantly.
Well, maybe don't have a bunch of highly paid 32-year-olds on your team. They definitely. I mean, listen, they obviously got rid of their 2 big receivers this offseason. Everything they're doing says rebuild. Even with Harbaugh, what personnel moves did they make that don't seem like a rebuild?
Well, they just had a leftover first-round wide receiver from the last regime. And he caught a touchdown pass for the first time, right? And then you decide to get an offensive lineman. Yeah, Nico, you look like you want to say something.
I know college is different than the NFL, but it's not like Jim Harbaugh showed up to Michigan and won a national championship in year 1. It took him 8-9 years.
I know. It's just you saw what he did with the 49ers, and he got there, and all of a sudden he's going 13-3. And he was doing it with a combination of quarterbacks that, as much as you might like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, there's no shot these guys are anywhere near as talented as Justin Herbert's supposed to be.
I also just feel like with Herbert, one, he just reminds me of Matt Stafford with the Lions. I don't know if it's ever going to happen here. And I know it's early in his career, but it just seems like this snake bitten. Maybe he's a guy that just has a ton of talent and he's just not in the right position to win. But with him, it's it doesn't matter if the guys are healthy, guys are hurt. He never wins that game. Can you guys remember a game, an important game where they're down, chips are on the line. All right, Justin Herbert, you got to go back there, go on a drive and extend this game. He never wins, ever.
I know.
Nobody thought they were winning that game because we've just seen this from Justin Herbert, and that's frustrating. The only thing I'll say on the injuries is Jim Harbaugh did come here and say, hey, I'm bringing my world-renowned strength and conditioning coach. Don't worry about those injuries. Well, half the team is hurt. So, what did that do?
Just a little counter. Doesn't Herbert, I always see the stat as the most fourth quarter comebacks.
It's funny. I've seen that stat too, and I cannot remember one.
None of them are important. I mean,
I just don't remember.
Like, yeah, because the team is a mass unit. But I do think like they signaled something this offseason with like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams drafted a left tackle. Like they're going to reinvent. I think Herbert will win with Harbaugh, and I mean he's going to be there as contractually. I think you guys are downplaying the Harbaugh effect. I just think the timing is a little different. Just the way the teams are, they can't have Mac and Bosa and all this money tied up in these older guys. They got to sort of redo this college style. I think they're going to be a way different team in 3 years, and they're going to be tough.
855-212-4227. All right, got a little Chargers talk in there from Ramon in Indianapolis. But we have a Lions question. Do you trust the Lions? I think Goff might be a MVP candidate too. People like these kinds of 18 for 18, even if it was a lot of yak yards. I think there's something about that, like a quarterback being perfect in a game.
And
he caught a touchdown.
Let's
too,
check out what are the odds?
I got to check them out.
We're in New York right now, and you can't see MVP odds. So you have to look it up on the internet because they don't do individual awards.
I know.
Because there's too many voters here, probably.
I never know the reason. 855-212-4227. Okay, lots more football to do, and we're going to do a fun baseball exercise next. Everyone's involved. Should I tell people what it is? Okay. A postseason baseball home run draft. So we're going to go around the horn. We're going to make fantasy teams, and it's just whoever hits the most home runs by the time the postseason is over, you're the big winner.
2 rounds. We could look at 2 rounds.
2-round snake draft.
We have to put paper. We have to choose someone and get a hat. Let's do this the right way.
Okay.
And then we have to have stakes.
We've got a lot to figure out. Maggie and Perloff. We'll step aside for a moment. We're back in just minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. All right, we're going to do something fun here with the baseball playoffs starting today. We're going to do a baseball postseason home run draft. So we got an order here. We're going to do a snake draft. We're just going to do quick 3 times around, and whoever's team hits the most home runs by the end of the postseason is king for a day. This is something that we had during the NCAA tournament when whoever got the most games right got to be king for a day. It turned out great. It was a lot of fun for the audience specifically, also for the king. And we don't have a last place loser, but we'll make sure we get the loser in.
Is Nico playing for the collective?
Whoever's in that chat?
Yeah.
No. We got to, I think Nico, we have to torture Nico if he loses. It's always fun.
Perloff loves having Nico around because we love you, Nico, but also because you feel like Nico's somebody, if push came to shove, you could beat up.
Yeah, I texted you that the other day.
Yeah.
The best part about Nico.
Yeah. I was like, it's 2:30 in the afternoon.
Isn't it amazing
I'm
that
trying
there's
to
someone
sleep.
skinnier on the show than me? Don't take that personally, Nico.
Oh, no offense at all. I've never been in a fight either, so I'd have zero experience going in.
Now there's Perloff. It'd be maybe.
Sadly, I've been in way too many.
Oh, no.
But, yeah.
We'll get those stories
How much
next.
you weigh, Nico?
115 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nico, you're my goal weight.
I've outweighed you. I outweigh you by 100 pounds almost. Anyway.
What are you, intermittent fasting?
Or just fasting?
Are your bones hollow? Can you fly?
I bet you eat all the time. You look like a high metabolism guy.
Oh, yeah. I eat like such crappy food too, like not healthy at all.
Must be nice to be 12.
Don't tell people that. They're going to get jealous of you. All right, here's the order. Bogusch, Perloff, EJ, Nico, then myself. I'd love to get a review on how I ended up dead last in this snake draft, but that's
you're fine. You're fine.
All right, Bogues, start us off. So we're doing a home run derby draft. Can we have a little music?
Yeah, this is a tough one, huh? At first, I thought I liked having the number 1 pick, but I've got options here.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Lucky you. There's one right answer here, by the way.
Yeah, I can't be too smart. I'll take Aaron Judge, please.
Ooh.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to let you to my thinking. I'm number 2 here. The Dodgers are the Vegas favorite to win it all, so it would make sense to go Shohei, but I don't trust them at all, so I'm going to stick New York, Juan Soto.
Oh, okay. I didn't see this. I mean,
I really wanted Juan Soto. That actually kind of hurt me
I thought
here.
Juan Soto was actually the right answer because Judge has never hit a postseason home run that I can remember, but
I thought so too.
It begins Saturday.
Okay, so now I'm 3 here. I will take the obvious and say he has a big postseason, Shohei Ohtani.
Let's hope so for baseball's sake.
Nico?
So I'm going to go with a guy that I actually thought that this would be everyone's thought process, the guy that plays the most games in the postseason. So I wanted to take someone who's playing in the wild card round. Give me Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles.
Thinking about Santander. Where is he here on my list, Nico? I was going to do Santander. You took that one from me. Okay, I'm up here. It's an interesting thought. You want somebody who's going to play in the postseason, play in the wild card, rather, to give yourself more bites at the apple. Not thought about that. Okay, I'm going to go with a little one of each here. I'm going to go with...
Maggie, you're on the clock.
I know. I'm going to go with Gunnar Henderson. Go the teammate there. And I will also go with Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians as my back-to-back snake draft pick. All right, Nico, you're back up.
We're even now because you stole my last pick. I was going to go with Jose Ramirez here on the back end. I will go with... I'm torn between two. I'm torn between Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
Why are you saying names out loud?
Those are my top two.
Well, because
but I didn't do it.
I want to go Alonso because of the same theory that I had before with like more games.
But you've seen him play recently, right?
Yeah, it's the problem. Go with Lindor.
So he's off the board in my book.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with I'll go with Kyle Schwarber here.
Okay.
Oh, man, I should get Schwarber. That's not fair.
EJ, back to you. We're doing a postseason home run draft. Who's going to hit the most home runs in the postseason? Go ahead.
I'm really mad that the guy that I really want to take is on the Phillies, and I'm not going to pick a Philly. So because of that, I'm going to do the other bad thing I want to do and take a Yankee. I will do Giancarlo Stanton.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even have him on my list. All right, Pearl, back to you.
I mean, I feel like I have a duty here. If I don't pick Bryce Harper.
Yeah, nobody's going.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
feel
I
like.
wanted to pick.
It's a good pick.
Oh, I would have.
I would have picked
I mean,
him
he's
too.
sort of been like banged up. I wanted Schwarber, but I'll take Harper.
No Mets karma for me. Could take Harper. Sorry.
Okay, Bogusch, back to you.
I'm going to use Nico's logic here and go to my wild card round pick. I'm going to take Manny Machado of the San Diego Padres.
Heard of him.
And then I go again, don't I?
Yep.
Ooh, all right, so I need one more. I would have taken Bryce Harper here, by the way.
He's off the board.
I know. You know what? I'll take... Give me an Alex Bregman, please.
All right. That's.
Oh, wait, can I make one? Can I switch it?
Nope.
Yeah, no, you can.
No.
Oh, come on, of course.
Okay, you have a list of names because you knew this was coming. I'm doing it off the top of my head in the moment.
This is all back of the envelope.
Yeah.
You don't want Bregman.
I want Mookie Betts.
Okay.
Thank you for that change.
No problem.
I'm going to emotionally hedge, and because you warned me to check out Pete Alonso's recent game log, I'm not going Pete Alonso, but I'm going Francisco Lindor.
Come on, man.
Wow, Perloff taking Lindor. EJ, this is our postseason home run
You got
draft.
a bad draft order, buddy, being right by me.
So that's ridiculous. Okay. Guess what was his last pick here for me? I will go. Let's go Tatis.
Okay.
I am stunned that this guy is still available and no one has mentioned him. Yordan Alvarez.
I was thinking of Nico, but I'm going to have to go with my other one. I'm going to go with Teoscar Hernandez as my last pick. So there we go.
I don't want to burst your Nico bubble, but Yordan Alvarez, 50-50 chance of making wild card roster. That's why I didn't pick him.
That's what I was. It was the injury report that kind of that scared me off him. Okay, there you go.
Does Nico get a flex play like Prize Picks?
No, I don't.
We do love Prize Picks around here.
If my first pick loses, my second pick wins. That's good enough. How does that work?
The terms and conditions have been set.
So a couple people who are left off the list, as we'll go back through our teams in a second. No one picked Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
Nobody picked
Correct.
Bobby Witt.
Not enough games. That was my fear with him.
No one picked Willie Adames.
Not enough games. They're going to lose to the Mets.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Everyone want to go back through your teams? Bogusch?
So I had the number one pick, Aaron Judge, Manny Machado, and then thanks to Maggie's graciousness, Mookie Betts to close things out.
I definitely have the highest paid team. I went with Lindor, Harper, and Juan Soto. Well, about to be the highest paid team in the history of sports.
You're right.
Oh, Shohei's making
I was going to say, EJ's got Shohei.
I got Shohei.
Well, he's making $2 million this year.
Yeah, that's true. Shohei, Giancarlo, and Fernando Tatis Jr.
Okay, I'm sorry, you win. That is the highest paid team in the history of sports.
Stanton and Shohei alone.
Nico, go ahead.
I got Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Schwarber, and Anthony Santander.
And I went with Gunnar Henderson, Jose Ramirez, and Teoscar Hernandez. Can we actually take a quick break and do the update right after this?
By the way, I want to party with Nico's team. That is a team. You got it right there. That is a random crew that, yeah. I mean, can we imagine the three of them on a road trip?
We'll do that draft another time. All right, we'll take a quick break. We come back with headlines in a minute.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Hello, American High, where Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was the football star, always being heard. But forget about the past, let's get to Pete, the guy who skips work like it's a track meet. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip, but showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip, but showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Oh! Clocking in, he might just pass while Perloff's here working, kicking some class. He's the master of the great vanishing act. One day he's here, then he's gone, that's a fact. While Perloff's on the grind, putting in the time, he's MIA like it's some kind of crime. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. So Ernest, you're just a footnote in Perloff's tale. Lottie, he's the king of the no-show trail. Perloff's still shining day after day, while Lottie's out there always MIA. Lord, Marion High, where Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was a football star, his name was heard. But fast forward now, who's the real champ? Perloff's on the mic while Ernest is just a stamp. Oh, Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat.
like it's pie in the sky. He's the Houdini of the office space, gone without a trace, not a single face. All over his Pendleton.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We just did our MLB postseason home run draft. We all picked players, snake draft style, on who's going to hit the most home runs in the postseason. Whoever wins gets to be king for a day. But that meant our update got pushed just a little bit, so we welcome in Andrew Bogusch.
Guys, your headlines are sponsored by Prize Picks. Football season's here, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Download Prize Picks, use code MNP, and get a $50 credit instantly when you play $5. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details. Jared Goff had himself a Monday night, 18 passes, 18 completions, 2 touchdown throws, and this.
Jared leans in. There's the snap. Jared on the end around gives it to Amon-Ra. He's going to throw it to Jared. It's on the 5 to the end zone. Jared Goff. Oh, baby, on the receiving end of a pass from Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And just like that, Goff and St. Brown are the 8th combo in league history to throw and catch a touchdown from each other. Goff's 18 for 18, also a record for most throws without an incompletion, but no game ball from Dan Campbell.
I just gave the game ball to somebody else, so I feel awful right now. I knew he played a heck of a game. I did not realize he was perfect. I did not know he was literally 18 for 18.
All right, I take back the MVP talk. If your head coach didn't even give you a game ball, this is not helping my case of Goff being now in the MVP conversation. Come on, coach. You don't have anyone else? You got 100 assistants on the sideline. Nobody told you, by the way, Goff's 18 for 18.
Dan Campbell, that's why I asked you guys, do you trust him? I feel like he's kind of, sometimes he's not all there.
Not because of this.
Well, I mean, I think he wants to pump up Jameson Williams. Like, that's been a project in Detroit, is get this guy confident. I know he got, and then Kirby Joseph's pick was amazing. So those are good game balls. Jameson Williams, by the way, did you see he got penalized for dunking the ball over the crossbar?
Yeah, that's been a no-no for a while.
That's so stupid. Why can't they do that? It's one of my favorite celebrations.
Because somebody messed up the goalposts doing it.
Is that why?
When
I remember
Graham
that.
used to do it, it was great.
Yeah, I forgot. You're right. Somebody knocked the goalpost off. Still, is there a way? I hate those celebration penalties. They're so
by the
dumb.
way, sorry, Bogues, I know we have more headlines to get to, but can we get a ruling here on what we're doing with the finger guns? Because, who was it on Sunday who got the unsportsmanlike for doing the pow, pow, pow?
It was Alan Lazard.
Thank you, Alan Lazard of the Jets. But every time a guy gets a first down, he's doing the...
I guess that's like a point
thing, but it looks like also finger guns.
But like the guy before Lazard really like shot a gun in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I get.
That was a T-shirt cannon.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I didn't see Lazard on Sunday.
The
Jets scored points?
Yeah.
It wasn't a touchdown. It was after a first down. And he's on his backside, and he's sitting down, and he's like, pow, pow, pow. Basically like the Jonathan Gannon.
Remember, what was the White Shoes?
Bloody White Shoes Johnson?
Yeah. Didn't he pow, pow, pow?
I don't remember.
That was, I think.
Can you holster a fake gun? Is that allowed? Because that's a good move, too, when you like blow off the smoke and then put it back in the holster.
The new thing is the sword.
Seatbelt. No, it's a seatbelt.
Oh, that's a seatbelt?
Yeah, I learned that from my brother. I always thought it was a sword, too. I thought it was like a samurai thing, but no, it's a seatbelt. You're strapped up.
Oh, but sometimes they'll do it on both sides.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Well, the point of it is so they're like locked.
Yeah, you're locked up.
Yeah, you're locked in. Yeah. It's a great celebration. Every time it happens, I'm like, it's so cool.
I just assumed it was Fortnite.
Yeah, no, I want it to be a sword still. I don't care what they're doing it for.
If you can't shoot somebody, I mean, you're right. I think we need to have celebrations with alternate forms of death, like strangle somebody.
You can't do the throat slash. And you can't do guns.
Roundhouse kick.
Yeah.
This could get creative. Lighter fluid match.
Like, yeah, are you allowed to pretend to pull a pin out of a grenade and run away at 10 yards? Yeah, they're big grenades.
No, I think they do that with the ball, don't they?
They do that with the ball.
Yeah.
No,
now you got to ban that.
the manager for that minor league game. Remember we had that epic.
Oh, right.
When he
Yes,
got tossed
that's
in
what
the
I was
game,
thinking about.
And he took the base and he threw it, I think, as a grenade. Or the rosin bag. I can't remember what it was now.
Oh, gosh, that video was nuts.
Anyway, figure out what we're doing with the finger guns, NFL.
The Lions celebrating a 42-29 win over the Seahawks. Seattle gained over 500 yards, had the ball for 9 more minutes, but DK Metcalf fumbled once. Tyler Lockett called for offensive PI to negate a 4th down conversion in the 4th, and the defense could not get a stop, so they lose for the first time this season. And then there were those Dolphins and Titans in Miami. Will Levis made an early exit with a right shoulder issue, so Mason Rudolph came in, handed off to Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears for a 31-12 win. First one for the Titans. The Dolphins now 1-3. Snoop Huntley threw for just 96 yards while running for Miami's lone touchdown. With the Eagles' start to the season, it's already basketball season in Philadelphia, so let's celebrate Joel Embiid losing 25 to 30 pounds this offseason. All part of the plan to make sure he reaches the finish line for a change.
This year is all about, there's no agenda, there's no all-star, there's no, all-NBA, there's none of that. It's whatever it takes to, make sure that, I get to that point and, I'm ready to go.
He did also mention while he is thinner, he is still not fully recovered from whatever surgery he had after last season. He'll be, held back and gingerly loosened into training camp in the preseason and the regular season.
Okay. Yeah, he got old fast.
Was he never not old? I mean, he was old at Kansas.
He's always looked a little older. So I was just trying to do a little bit of math here.
Yeah.
So the closing ceremonies of the Olympics were August 11th. And the reason why I bring that up is because Embiid has allegedly lost 30 pounds. Is that what he said?
25 to 30, yeah.
But he didn't lose any weight at the Olympics.
He
So this
looked
is
heavier.
all post August 11th. So we're
Or
talking
maybe-
about 7 weeks. He
You know,
lost
a
30
big guy
pounds.
like that, maybe he lost a little and we didn't realize it.
Maybe.
But, like,
He lost about five pounds a week.
How do you lose all that weight without, if you're recovering from knee surgery? I know a little bit. How do you lose all that weight? I don't know. I don't get
Diet? I mean, he famously would
diet
sneak
can help a lot.
McDonald's around the team.
It's just I know.
That's not a way to do
I remember
it.
seeing him eat a burger on a training table for a Celtic game. So, yeah, I get
Imagine
it.
how small a burger must look in his hands. Must look like a slider.
It just I don't know. It just feels like, it just seems like a lot of weight to lose in a short amount of time.
That's what I was thinking.
But when you have a team of pros around you, it becomes far easier than we think.
Also,
Okay, but then
he's
why has he ever
huge.
done it before?
Because he didn't want to.
How much do you think he weighs? I mean, he's gigantic. I
Maybe
think
they listed him 300.
like offensive linemen in the NFL vary 30 pounds a day. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but
How much does Nick Folk weigh, by the way? Just
So he's listed-
How many
on that guy?
Nikos does
so Joel Embiid's listed at 280. He ain't not 280 because he's 7 feet tall. He's probably 310 or something.
Yeah, maybe he can lose a lot in a short amount of time. He just never has done that before. Although earlier in his
he's
career,
totally
he was kind of smaller.
He was ripped at Kansas. He was totally jacked
when he was 35.
Yeah, that's the other question. How old is this dude?
What else we got, Bogusch?
The baseball postseason begins 1:30 Central when the Astros host the Tigers, Royals at Orioles at 4 Eastern, Mets, Brewers 5:30, Braves, Padres at 8:30. The Mets and Braves claiming those spots by splitting the doubleheader yesterday in Atlanta. And a big win for all baseball fans yesterday with MLB announcing that All-Stars will once again wear their own uniforms during the All-Star game like they used to starting next summer. There still will be the gimmicky All-Star uniforms. Those will be worn during workouts and the Home Run Derby. But in the game, players will be in their own uniforms looking beautiful.
I think we like it. Universal seal of approval. But of course, they're going to have to create these uniforms for the Home Run Derby and stuff just for something to sell, and they will be hideous.
Yeah, which they've always done. That's fine because they're Home Run Derby jerseys. Who cares? I think they will, though, wear an All-Star hat as a team in the game, but their uniforms will be their uniforms.
They will find a way to ruin this. Don't worry.
Oh, come on, Maggie. Don't do this to me.
No, they're going to change the hat. Like, that's already going to be.
Wait,
They actually did change the hat a little bit before they changed the uniform.
They're not wearing the All-Star hat and their uniform. They're getting to wear their own hat, right?
No, what I read yesterday was that there's going to be an All-Star hat on
So
top
you'll
of
be
the
wearing
uniforms.
like a Padres uniform and an All-Star hat?
I believe
See, told
so.
you. They're going to ruin it.
Well, what they did before, right before they went to the uniforms, was the hat was like a Mets hat, but and in the Mets colors, but it was a little different.
Okay.
Which was fine. My thing was like, I don't love it. I prefer they just wear their uniforms, but like that's a fine compromise. What we've had the last however many years has been pure garbage. And like, I'm sad that it took this long for Rob Manfred to realize this was a terrible idea. But thank goodness someone came to their senses and got us what we needed, which is these guys wearing their uniforms during the All-Star game. It's one of the best, I think, as far as pageantry moments, one of the best moments in the baseball season.
You were sad about that?
I was sad. Maybe I was angry.
Like was your fiance like, what's wrong, EJ? Well,
I'm glad
Rob
you
Manfred.
asked.
But the funny thing too is when you say that, it's like Rob Manfred. The list of his problems, those hideous All-Star uniforms, is down there. I mean,
I'm looking like you could see the guy's
number
junk.
one for me.
It was
Is that
the
right?
top 5
for most of spring training. I could
really?
see everybody's sack.
Yeah, that's a
How
good
about
point.
that?
Rob
Sorry.
Manfred, but
Good morning, everybody.
fixing that too.
if you're listing Rob Manfred's things people don't like about, aren't there a lot of things?
There are, but the All-Star Game uniforms were surprisingly high.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
It's awful. Like, it was awful what they did, because I think, again, it's one of the things that makes baseball unique and it's really cool, and he just unnecessarily ruined it.
Oh, he just doesn't care. Someone else is making that decision. To put that on Manfred, he's deputized that to somebody else.
But somewhere in there, he did something. Like, he's either listening to people that he wasn't listening to before, because this can't happen without him being okay with it. And it came through him to begin with, the change to the gimmicky one. So like
pressure from the apparel company.
Right. No, I think this came from the players. And the apparel company are the ones that are giving in and not mass producing.
No, I'm saying pressure from the apparel companies to make a new jersey. That's probably what happened in the first place.
Right. So
why they went away from their own
and now
jersey.
this time he's listening to somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Sure. What else?
That's it.
That's it?
That's how you drop the mic.
Yeah.
All-Star uniform changes. It's important.
855-212-4227.
That should say baseball.
I think this postseason is going to be big. I don't want to hear about ratings. Obviously, I'm sure Dolphins Titans probably is going to outrate it, but I think people are excited. There's a lot of storylines here, especially the pressure, I think, on the Yankees and the Dodgers is one of them. Watching Shohei in the postseason, I think, is going to help.
That's a very baseball advocate thing to say. I don't care about ratings. That's kind of the thing. No, I agree. This postseason is kind of awesome. But that being said, I'm sure that Titans-Dolphins game could beat any World Series game.
That's rough. Can I update you guys on a poll question that we asked earlier today? Obviously, the passing of Pete Rose yesterday was a massive story. Should Pete Rose be inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame posthumously? Would anyone like to guess what the results are?
I just hope no is winning.
80% yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
I know the results.
78% yes.
Oof. How many votes?
Still early.
I feel like modern people want everybody in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds, Kurt Schilling, Pete Rose. I think the default is let them in.
Well, also, I think it helps when you start gaining people who don't know the full context of the story.
100%.
Yeah.
I think.
What do you think people don't know that would change their view? They know he bet. They know that he lied about it.
I think people are dismissing that. Well, everybody gambles now. Like he gambled on baseball. Like there's still a rule where you can't gamble on your sport. He did that.
No doubt.
He agreed to this punishment in the first place. He agreed to be banned for life, which meant no Hall of Fame. He didn't admit to anything for 10 plus years after that. He's a terrible person.
Yeah.
So, like, he deserves no sympathy. It's not as simple as, like, oh, how two-faced. You can take money from casinos now but not let this guy in. It's not that simple.
Right. So he agreed to the ban because MLB was investigating more things about him, like into the gambling.
Yes.
And they were finding other things about his personal life. And the story that I read is that he wanted that to go away.
Right. And the agreement also, the thing he got out of it was that, and baseball never fully declared innocent or guilty on all of those things. But he took the punishment for being guilty.
Right.
Bygones be bygones. Put him in. Right, Nico?
You and 80% of our audience. 855.
All good points, but still.
855-212-4227. How do you disagree with that? Coming up, we will remember more about the life of Pete Rose. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Goff turns, fakes to Gibbs. They pick up the blitz. Goff throws. It is caught. Crossing
Go, baby,
the
go.
50-yard line.
There it
That
is.
J-Mo. Forget it. Gone. Nobody's going to catch him. You can't catch that man. J-Mo to the house, 70 yards from Jared Goff.
That was Lions Radio. Exciting, thrilling win for the Detroit Lions in a back-and-forth game. Or the Seahawks were always playing a little catch-up, but it was a fun, offensive-minded game. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. First loss of the year for the Seahawks. And the Lions, Perloff, I thought, were super impressive last night. Not just Jared Goff going 18 for 18 in a perfect game, but this is definitely the best division in football, right? The NFC North.
Yeah.
Maybe the AFC North might have a say in this when all is said and done, but I think right now the biggest obstacle in the way of the Lions and getting that number one seed and getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs has got to be their own division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that home field means that much. I understand the Jared Goff outside thing, but I still think that they're the best team. I mean, they have just because for me, I think we disagree a little bit. Their secret weapon is their run game is just they can just protect everything. They can protect Goff. Once Goff, they basically say, Goff, do not throw the ball into traffic. They can protect that defense. Like, it is a rare ability to run with your running backs in the NFL. I mean, you saw Derrick Henry with Baltimore the other night. It's a trend this year because passing is down. But I just think that Montgomery Gibbs 1-2 is like, that's a Super Bowl formula.
And they came so close last year. I mean, should have been in the Super Bowl. I mean, you have a 3-score lead, even though you were on the road against the 49ers.
There was about 3 plays, Gibbs fumble, Josh Reynolds drop. I don't know what the third one is. Like, they handed that game away.
It was devastating. And so now you're back at it. And I thought the offense had not looked as explosive. Now, again, the Seahawks had some injuries, so this ended up just being a lot more of an offensive-minded game. But this was the Lions offense that we were waiting for, right? This was the one where Goff is just distributing the ball to everybody. Yes, the run game is important for sure, but he was finding guys. I mean, the Jameson Williams 70-yard touchdown was one thing, but there were lots. I feel like I haven't seen Laporta get involved in the way that he did last night. Also, it was just a very balanced game. And they had the trick play with Amon-Ra St. Brown throwing the Philly special to Jared Goff. And it was a beautiful throw and a beautiful catch. That was not a Nick Foles in the Super Bowl with no one around him. That was a covered play. And St. Brown's throw was perfect, and Jared Goff's catch was perfect.
How about when David Montgomery took on the entire team, Marshawn Lynch style? That was amazing, too. I love their short line, the way the running backs run at the goal line. Goff, now it's interesting about Goff. What happens, he made a couple throws under pressure that made me terrified. One time he spun around. Honestly, like Jared Goff, I want you to throw it away instead of, that's when he gets in trouble. When he tries to move his feet at all, he made one play where he pirouetted and hit a guy about 10 yards downfield. I still don't trust that long term. I want Goff to either throw from a clean pocket or throw it away because he does make you a little nervous. Even with 18 for 18, don't you feel like he's always a big interception coming?
Not generally, no. I don't feel that way like how I felt about someone like a Will Levis or something like that. That guy's an interception waiting to happen. He got hurt last night. So Mason Rudolph came in and the Titans ended up winning the game. That was the early game on Monday Night Football. But no, I don't think of Goff in that way, like he's going to blow the game for me.
Well, the one loss he blew, that he threw the ball in, he never should have thrown that pass. Like, he's got a game managed, and I think they got to him after that game. They said just be a lot safer. It was in the Bucs game. Yeah, that interception cost him the game. I don't know. He's got 4 picks on the year, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks.
But it's been uncharacteristic, right?
Even last year, like, I just feel like he has untimely picks. Like, when they're rolling, and like, I just think he's got to be smart. He makes me a little bit nervous. He doesn't make you nervous at all. I always feel like Goff's style is just like, that guy just feels like a little bit shaky in crunch time.
855-212-4227. We asked you today, coming off this big Lions win, do you trust Dan Campbell? Now, last night really wasn't, I would say, a Dan Campbell game, if you will. That
was a Ben Johnson game last night.
The offensive coordinator certainly took center stage, but the other part, there weren't like these really controversial 4th down decisions last night. Not that I can remember. Do you trust the Lions? 72% say yes. Do trust the Lions. How quickly opinions change.
You know who's still the favorite in the NFC, which is insane on Vegas, is the Niners. How is that possible?
Well, they're getting guys back.
I don't know. I mean, they're not getting McCaffrey back, so I feel like the Lions have to be the favorite right now with the Packers right behind them. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. It all goes through the NFC North. And I'm probably disrespecting the Vikings a little bit.
I was going to say, don't forget the Vikings off to a 4-0 start. You're welcome to weigh in. I also thought Jared Goff probably entered his name into the MVP conversation last night. And it's partly because he was 18 for 18, and that's gaudy. But the other part is, who else has really separated themselves right now? Now, it's the quarter turn of the NFL season. We got tons of time. But the C's are kind of parting in terms of the MVP race. We talked about the favorites in the AFC sort of not looking amazing, although the Ravens looked awesome on Sunday night. The Chiefs are 4-0, but has the offense looked that great? Mahomes does not look like an MVP candidate. He's throwing picks. And in the NFC, where's your MVP candidate there? The 49ers are really hurt. Dallas Cowboys, we'll see. You know, your Philadelphia Eagles right now not looking so hot. So all the places you would look for maybe an MVP candidate, I'm not really seeing it. So that, to me, signals that Jared Goff could get an inside lane here.
I feel like I understand Mahomes might be the favorite, which is insane, but it feels like Josh Allen's to lose because of the narrative.
Scored 10 points on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's a one game. I mean, his stats are way better than Goff's on the year. People will look at that.
Yeah, but do MVP candidates, can you get blown out and still win the MVP?
Of course.
But I'm trying to think of Lamar Jackson last year. I don't think they got blown out, did they? They were blowing
in fact,
other
I think
people
it
out.
ended Brock Purdy's MVP race when they got blown out by the Ravens.
Exactly.
Well, that was a head-to-head, Lamar versus Purdy. I just feel like they want to give it to Allen. And the Lions, I'm not sure Goff is going to have like a 40-touchdown season. Will he have, the way the Lions operate, is he going to have that big a statistical season? Because the stats, if the Bills, because let's look at the Bills. The Jets are, Rodgers is limping.
Yep.
The Dolphins are terrible. The Patriots are the worst team in the league. He's got a great path to be 13-4.
Yeah, they have a first place schedule though. Well, so do the Lions. So it's good, but the Lions schedule is not as crazy. To me, Buffalo plays everybody. The Lions don't play everybody. Dallas next week.
Well, but if the Jets fall apart, which it looks like they might be, this is just like, it just feels like if Josh Allen keeps us together, I just think they want to give it to him.
So
they love Josh Allen.
Oh, of course. But the other part is, we just talked about how passing is down. Do you need a 40 touchdown season this year? Could this be one of those years where you just sort of understand that it's going back to the run game? We are really kind of ping-ponging here in a different sort of offense. 855-212-4227. I do want to stop for a second on McCaffrey. We'll get to the Dolphins-Titans game if we must in just a little bit. That one was brutal. McCaffrey update. We got this yesterday from NBC Sports Bay Area, which is he's got the Achilles tendonitis, but now it looks like it's in both legs, both feet, however you want to say it. Achilles tendonitis. What's that?
Well, Shanahan's kind of argued that characterization. He said it started in one leg and then moved to the other, and it's primarily in one leg. Now, EJ, you have this too. You've had tendonitis. Shanahan explained that when you have tendonitis in one leg, it causes tendonitis in the other. I have no idea.
Because you're favoring one leg?
He said this is very natural. This is the way this injury goes. It's overuse. It's not good.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like the drip, drip, drip of these injury reports for the 49ers, I don't know how much I trust Kyle Shanahan to tell us the full truth here. You got McCaffrey's over in I'm not saying he's like hiding things on purpose, but it felt like they were kind of hiding the McCaffrey injury. Remember Jordan Mason said that he found out he was starting the Friday before their game against the Jets on Monday night, and that almost, caused a firestorm because you have to be really truthful on these injury reports. And he's in Germany right now. Or maybe he's back at this point. I don't know if anyone's seen Christian McCaffrey.
That was a little while ago he went to Germany, right? Wasn't that last
I thought
week?
it was a couple days ago.
Okay. So Shanahan said during the time he's had it in both tendons, I think it started in one, then you overcompensate. Mainly one has been bothering him, but he's had it in both. By the way,
why didn't we know that until yesterday?
But tendonitis is a weird injury. I mean, what percentage of the NFL is suffering some form of tendonitis right now?
The problem is that a lot of times tendonitis can be used to cover for, it's just like a thing you say to miss time. So I don't know. Like the NBA used to use tendonitis all the time when they just wanted to give guys a rest.
Everybody has some form of tendonitis. When your knee hurts, that's because you have tendonitis.
Okay, well, not all of us go to Germany to get our blood spun.
Yeah.
I mean, this is obviously a little bit different.
Definitely.
This isn't all of us have tendonitis.
Also, I think
this is Christian McCaffrey might have tendonitis in both feet.
Right, but I'm not kidding. I think there's very few players in the NFL who don't have some form of tendonitis. Just look at the way they walk. Their knees are always hurting. So I think you hit on something. Is there a deeper injury here in that Achilles? I'm going to drop his name. Dr. Rock Positato and I had a long talk about the injuries yesterday. My foot doctor.
What did he have to say?
He said that Justin Herbert's overcompensating all over the place on his plantar fasciitis, and you could see it on Sunday. He also said Myles Garrett is in good shape. He's like, I followed up because he had double foot injuries.
Yeah.
He's like, Myles Garrett's going to be fine, and he's really worried about Rodgers.
Oh, what did he say about Rodgers?
He said Rodgers, with an Achilles injury, much like McCaffrey, you tend to overcompensate the rest of your leg. It's really hard to feel confident in your plant. Which makes it, listen, I think we were all, and EJ, you're a Jets fan, like I think we were all a little oblivious to the challenge of coming back from a torn Achilles and being 100% throughout your leg.
Well, once we saw the offensive line look like a sieve, it's like, oh, this might not work out well.
Yeah.
Rodgers getting backed up the whole game.
But I think he doesn't have the same, I saw it on Sunday in the rain, like he doesn't have the same confidence when he runs. It looks like he's being a little careful.
He shouldn't be running at all. I mean, he's barely mobile as it is, and he had to run, 6 times in that game against Denver because the weather was so bad?
I don't know if it was a design run, but it was definitely some kind of zone read, and he pulled it and ran for 9 yards. And I'm like, happy for the 9 yards, but throw that out of the playbook. What the hell are they doing over there? Design runs for a 40-year-old quarterback? Like, what is going on?
Well, you know and I know. This is not exactly Mensa over there with the offense and Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah,
but it's supposed to be Rodgers, and that's what was so disappointing. Now we're just talking about Rodgers.
Yeah, well, the thing about Rodgers real quick, though, is that what's a little bothersome to me is like you saw the Patriots game, he actually was moving really well. The Niners game, he looked very immobile, and I was like, this is concerning. Patriots game, like, oh, okay, he looks good. Maybe he's getting better than it felt like the last game against whoever they played, Denver, felt like a step back. Now, I don't know if that's just the weather, and the weather made it more of an issue, or is it like one of those things where he's 40 years old, he has a torn Achilles, and some days he's just going to feel and look terrible. And that's the problem is that that's going to be a random game where the other quarterback throws for negative yards in the first half. You might have trouble to win a game you should win.
Well, I think actually, you say like we're just talking about, right? But we're all talking about the same, like this injuries, the way the new offenses work, they chip down the field. Like there's no 70-yard pass plays anymore. So guys are just getting exposed to hit after hit after hit. So it's going to be a war of attrition. There's so many injured guys. And the Lions, by the way, like even last night you saw Montgomery and Gibbs were taking massive hits on. Amon-Ra St. Brown gets blown up all the time. Like who's going to be healthy at the end of the year is the story of the NFL season. And unfortunately, I don't think it's Aaron Rodgers.
Well, the weather hasn't even gotten cold yet. Yeah, it was rainy the other day, but it was still 60s.
Yeah, the temperature is fine. And then my question to you guys is, do you feel like this is something that is more to do with just, like Pearl said, the style of play? Or is it lack of preseason, lack of practice? Like, you guys
could
don't
be
practice
that
as
too.
much. Like, is that leading? Because these injuries feel unprecedented. It's hard to really tell because you don't really know, I guess. No one's tracking it. But it feels like I've never seen more injuries that are, like, keeping guys out of games as much so early in the season.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the numbers. I think you're getting way more plays because there's no long touchdowns anymore. So did the Seahawks set a first down record last night? They had like more first downs than any team in 30 years or something. So I don't think you're getting the boom, boom plays. So look at like Derrick Henry, for example, 199 yards the other day. How many hits did he take? It wasn't like that 5 years ago. Nobody was running that much. So I think we're going to have injuries throughout the year.
I feel like Derrick Henry doles out the punishment. He doesn't take it. I'm worried about who he goes up against. But I think when I see injuries to teams like 49ers or the Chiefs, I just start also thinking about the accumulation of games that these teams have played.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the postseason every year. You're going deep into the playoffs every year. At some point, does that not catch up?
Well, I don't know. The Dolphins and the Chargers seem to have every single player on their roster hurt, and they're not playing deep into the postseason. But you're right that it does seem like specific wear and tear. Pacheco, we knew Pacheco was going to get hurt. Like you can't give Isaiah Pacheco the ball 35 times in a game. That's what I honestly thought the Chiefs were overusing him to start with. I think it's the narrative of this year. That and holding and illegal. I mean, last night, how many flags are we going to see? Can this stop, Maggie? Can you make it stop? I know they're making early season emphasis.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I think it's a lack of preseason. Nobody knows how to line up anymore. Every touchdown you look for, well, where's the holding penalty? Every single touchdown.
Yeah, and like things like last night kind of get frustrating when you're talking about the Seahawks and the Lions if DK Metcalf at one point looked like he did actually convert a 2-point conversion, which was very important at that stage of the game because it was a 1-score game and it could have made it from an 8-point lead by the Lions to a 6-point lead. It just would have changed a lot. And instead, they do the replay review. You have the replay. We're looking at every blade of grass. I get it if it's a judgment call, you have no replay and you miss stuff. But what happens when you actually are going to the videotape and you still are missing things? Because every scoring play is reviewed.
Well, they didn't review that play, right?
But why? Because it's called not a 2-point conversion. But
I know what the ESPN guy said.
With all these cameras if you're not getting this stuff right?
I'm not 100% sure that DK had full possession of that ball. I understand what the analyst was saying, but that guy's batting about 40% on his take.
But just look yourself. It looked like his knee was down with possession of the ball and he survived the ground. It wasn't. Listen, it wasn't a touchdown.
You saying that ball didn't move at all in his hand?
I didn't think enough.
Yeah, again, we're getting did the ball move? Oh, God, I hate those debates. That being said, did Detroit scored what, 13 seconds later to make it a 2?
Definitely, but it would have been, there is a different math. You're an analytics guy. You know about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, but it didn't make any difference. They could not stop the Lions on any play whatsoever. I think the Lions scored before that minute was up, the Lions are already gone up by 14 points or 15 points.
855-212-4227. You can weigh in on last night's games. The Miami and Titans game. Woof. And how much criticism does Mike McDaniel come under for not being able to scheme up anything when you're offensive guy?
He did scheme up some nice plays. There was one where Hill was wide open and Hundley just overthrew him by a few yards. I think it's lack of work with the quarterback. It wasn't like the plays are there, but those guys are, you need time. They brought in Hundley out of nowhere. You talked about earlier in the year when Malik Willis came.
Yep.
You need some training camp.
I know, but look what happened with Willis.
Yeah,
he looked great. Willis is your anti-argument. Because they got him ready to play really fast.
But I'm going back to your original argument that you can't just bring in a quarterback out of nowhere, especially Mike McDaniel's offense, which is really kind of timing oriented. It's an impossible assignment for Hundley.
They said they did pare down the playbook. No kidding. 855-212-4227. But is the Dolphins' season on the brink of complete collapse? You saw Tua on the sideline talking about 2 weeks left on the IR, and whether he decides to come back is going to be his choice. But I don't think it's going to make anyone feel great if he gets popped again and we see him get yet another concussion. 855-212-4227. More Maggie and Perloff. We have a lot to do, including Bill Belichick taking aim at his former team. What was his criticism about the Patriots? You'll hear it next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. I personally made a vow that I would not watch any Bill Belichick coverage. I've totally ignored him on the Manning cast. I do not see him on the McAfee show.
You're boycotting?
I'm boycotting. I catch on Twitter. I don't watch the Inside the NFL show because I'm not sure what channel it's on anymore. Is it CW?
Yep.
So I'm out on Bill Belichick coverage, but I understand he's saying some things, so you can inform me.
Wow, this has gotten personal between you and Bill. So Bill Belichick was on McAfee's show yesterday. I did watch it. He was asked about the New England Patriots and sort of what their plan is for the quarterback position. Here's what he had to say.
Right. Well, Pat, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what the plan is, so I don't know. I can't comment on that. If Mayo says he's got a plan, then I guess he's got one, and we'll have to wait to see what it is. I don't know, but I'd say there's a number of issues there.
All right, Bill, what are the issues? Let's hear it.
I think there are some pass rush issues there. There are some, scoring issues, and the Joey Sly is that's a great addition for them. They got a good kicker. That's a big upgrade from where we were last year. But I'd say there's some other things that have to be worked out. And
all right, so listen, I like if Belichick is going to be this honest, right? Be honest about every team in the league, though. You're expecting a little bit more intel, maybe on the team that he was in charge of for the last 22 years, but it looks like we're not going to get too much in depth. But,
well, I mean, like he says, the pass rush. Like, what pass rushers did you leave? I mean, one good pass rusher is in Atlanta. Who's he talking? I don't even know who the pass rushers really are off the top of my head.
Yeah, the thing is about the Pats defense is I think there was an idea that they still were going to be a competitive unit, right? And that the cupboard wasn't totally bare on the defense like it is on the offense.
Yeah, then Bentley got hurt. I mean, there's not much there. Honestly, there's zero talent in that building. We all know that. We knew it coming into the year, and nothing has changed, except apparently their kicking situation
has gotten much
fire
better
right now.
That's very much on brand for Belichick to be going right to the special teams. Here's the thing. I don't expect Belichick to know what they want to do with Drake May. He's not in the building anymore. The better question is, what would you do, Bill? And maybe he'll get to that. But from what you've seen out of the Patriots, is it smart to put Drake May out there right now? Is he going to do any better? Jacoby Brissett got sacked 6 times. Now you're coming off a game against the San Francisco 49ers, so good luck to you. But is this even worth it to put Drake May? Can he actually learn at the quarterback position? Can he grow in a positive way when you have an offensive line that's incapable of blocking, right? And can he protect himself? We saw a little bit in the preseason, but the preseason is a fallacy. We saw Caleb Williams look really great in the preseason at times. So you can't really tell, Pearl.
I always thought that they were saving Drake May until they got through this early part of the schedule because they have the Jets defense really good. The Niners defense was supposed to be good. We'll see about that. But I'm not sure where the break is now because the Dolphins, they have some pass rushers. That probably is a good place to play them. But then the next week you go up against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and the Texans. Then you got the Jags could get a little pass rush to Jets. I don't know where the Titans, the Bears, I'm not sure where the easy offense is. Eventually you're going to have to throw Drake May to the Wolves. That's my point. There's no pass. There, if the Patriots O-line can't protect against these teams, there's not going to be some easy part of the schedule to get Drake May in. So I say just let the kid learn on the job.
I mean, here's the newsflash. There's not going to be any quote-unquote easy games. You're the easy game for people. Yeah. That's how they're looking at the Patriots. Oh, this is my W. And they got off to a good start, which was beating the Cincinnati Bengals and then going toe-to-toe with the Seahawks and taking it to overtime. It's like, wow, maybe there is something here with the Patriots. Turns out maybe not.
Well,
Injuries have taken their toll.
They do have some winnable games for sure because the Dolphins are awful too. And I think they have an injured Rams team on the schedule. They have some teams that are not juggernauts. They have a last place schedule, so there will be some possible wins. But I don't know quite how they do it. Honestly, Brissett's terrible. He is not seeing the field at all.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. Do you throw a rookie out there?
Yes. Of course you do.
To take the hits and to possibly get hurt? I mean, isn't that the one? Don't you have one job if you're Gerard Mayo, which is don't ruin Drake May year one?
Well, if it's not, the question is when. Are you going to wait till week 9? What's the point?
Well,
just get rid of it.
I would ask, what's the point of playing him this whole year?
Because I personally think getting some experience under your belt means more than just
This is a lot of experience, though. You put him in before week 5. That's basically the season.
When did this usually happen? It's sometime between week 5 and 10, the rookie goes in. So what are we doing here? I just can't watch Jacoby Brissett.
Well, this is more about you. This is not about what's good for the Patriots. This is about what's good for you on a Sunday.
I mean, this is the spot. Dolphins coming to New England. I think this is where you want to do it.
Let's go to Adrian in Maryland. He's got a thought on the Dolphins from last night. Situation not good. Adrian, what's up?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I think Mike McDaniels is just as much at fault to this Tua thing. He went in. I guess he went to bat for Tua and to get him to get the extension. And then you look at this offense. He's supposed to be boy genius. They lose one guy on the offense, and it all goes to crap. Last year it was Tyreek Hill when he missed those few games, and that offense looked terrible. And now it's Tua, and now the offense looks terrible. They just didn't go out and get a competent backup with Tua's injury history. You're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Adrian, you're right. Now, to be fair to McDaniel, because I've been crushing him this morning too, how's the offense look this bad? It's not one injury because Teron Armstead is a left tackle and he's hurt also. So that is bad. and you lost your quarterback, and then you lost your backup quarterback. And the backup didn't look good to begin with, so I'll give you that. But you are down to the third string guy. But teams would kill for Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Those are guys where, and forgive me for oversimplifying, but you feel like you just get the ball to them in space in any way, and they're going to do the work. Look at what we saw last night with the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff was getting them easy, quote unquote, easy passes, and those guys were doing the rest.
Yeah.
Well, last night you knew Levis was going to at least give you one ball, one extra possession. You got to make it into a defensive game. I know it's a defensive game all the way up to about 5-6 minutes left in the game, which I missed the under, which is crazy.
I know. Isn't that the craziest cover ever?
I was like, this is a lock. This under's a lock.
Apparently, he wasn't supposed to score there. According to Brian Callahan, they had called the dogs off, but Tony Pollard scored anyway.
Right. Just get back to our point. I think McDaniels, he's kind of overrated to me. You got to find some way to make your offense work, even if you lose. You lose Tyreek last year. You lose Tua this year. Find some way to make it work. Dallas made it work with Cooper Rush. They won 4 games when Dak went out. So, and Dolphins' offense is a lot better than the Cowboys' offense was last year.
Good point.
The year that
Adrian,
Dak went out.
thank you for making it. Appreciate you checking in.
That's it. That's a bit of a dubious statement. That was a pretty good Cowboys team. This offense team is, because again, like Chubb's not back yet, right? Like they're not fully. Maybe I'm missing it. They're not fully constituted on defense yet either. They're not great. They even everything was clicking there. I mean, listen, Tua was there week 1 and they got a miracle win over the Jags, who were one of the worst teams in the league. So it's not like this is a Super Bowl contender where we got to get. I don't know. I just feel like they're a mess.
Don't forget the Texans didn't beat the Jaguars until there were 18 seconds left on Sunday.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, the Dolphins are not this elite team that lost their quarterback and now is not elite. In my opinion, I thought they were middle of the road. They haven't won a playoff game since 2000. I'm not sure, like, this is going anywhere positive anyway.
Yeah, but all that bad history is not on Tua. That not winning a playoff game since 2000. You want to go back to last year's game, losing in Kansas City. Okay, fine.
Yeah, but they were not. They were shelling themselves. They had that division in hand at the halfway mark, and then just completely fell apart because of injuries. Right?
No, they had the division till the literal last game, fourth quarter. They had that division.
I think nobody,
despite the injuries, they almost won the division.
Right, but I think nobody came in the playoffs last year and said, "Wow, the Dolphins are real contenders." And I honestly didn't see anybody pick them for the Super Bowl this year. We're kind of stuck in limbo here. We're like a wild card kind of team.
Expensive limbo, considering they gave Tua that big contract. Andrew Bogusch is here. He does have headlines. What's up?
Let's stay with that game, guys. We were quickly deprived of Mayo versus Snoop last night in Miami with Will Levis hurting his right shoulder in the Titans' second drive. Mason Rudolph came in, helped those Titans get their first win, 31-12, but head coach Brian Callahan quick to end any QB controversy.
Will's healthy. He's our quarterback. It was not a decision based on anything other than his health and protecting him, particularly with the bye week and the shoulder that didn't feel great. I didn't want to put him back out there, and I knew I was going to run the ball quite a bit. So that was really what it factors. But he's our starter when he's healthy, and we're ready to roll with him.
Rudolph.
Why? It's what I don't
because
understand.
Mason Rudolph is the other choice.
Yeah, Rudolph was okay. He
had 85 yards passing on 9 completions.
Yeah, that didn't exactly seem like an explosive offense either, except Rudolph won't kill you. He won't throw picks. So I guess there's a lot of value there. I would go
Give
Rudolph,
him the
my
chance.
person. I don't know. I feel like he's never really thrown a lot of picks. So it's got to check the stats on that.
You've got one quarterback threw for 85 yards. The other quarterback threw for 25 yards before he got hurt. And the third quarterback threw for 96 yards. Yeah. That's great. How did this game hit the over?
Because Nick Folk hit 5 field goals, 3 of 50-plus yards.
And the Pollard late TD killer.
Snoop Huntley was the guy that threw for 96 yards. He did run for a score. He's the Dolphins' third starting QB in 3 weeks. They've dropped 3 in a row. Tough times for Mike McDaniel.
I don't foresee this locker room quitting. I don't see it as their nature. However, you have to give guys reasons to go above and beyond.
Which feels like your job. Tua is still weeks away. The Finns play in Foxborough Sunday, then have their bye.
There, by the way, I'm sure everybody was watching the Lions Seahawks at this point. There was one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen at the end of this game. Basically, the Dolphins had an onside kick, and they pooch punted it, and they hit it about 30 yards in the air. and the guy calls for a fair catch, lets it land, and the Dolphins pick it up, and everybody thinks it's the Dolphins' ball. Brian Callahan goes ballistic that the guy didn't catch the ball, and it turns out that it landed just beyond the landing zone, and therefore, because there's a special landing zone for onside kicks. Guess who did not know this? The announcers, the coaches, the players, the officiating expert had no idea. So there's a new rule. First of all, this is I think
the onside kick,
which is now this is the second time I've seen this week. Guys are punting their onside kicks, which is crazy.
Wait, in the old days, it just had to go 10 yards, right?
Right.
Now there's a whole landing zone for the onside kick?
There's a landing zone for the onside kick.
I feel like I watched a few onside kicks this last weekend, and I didn't see a landing zone.
This is if you do the regular kickoff, right? Because you have to declare that you're doing an onside kick.
Right.
But so I guess I didn't see this play, but I assume that they declared a regular kickoff, but then did the pooch kick.
Possibly.
Yeah, because if you
Callahan didn't know. He thought he chewed out the player. Everyone thought it was a Dolphins ball. Everybody, the announcer said Dolphins ball. Not a single person. He called for a fair catch. Nobody apparently, and then didn't catch it. It was the most bizarre play. Nobody knows these rules. None of the players had any idea what was going on.
None of us know the rules clearly too.
No, there is the officiating
there
expert.
Are none.
Honestly, the officiating expert got it wrong too. He didn't know it either. It is insanity with this rule.
The Seahawks arrived in Detroit last night having allowed just 43 points over 3 games, and then Mike McDonald's team lost 42-29.
We're on record that Jared's a great quarterback. Played clean. They ran crisp routes, and we obviously didn't deny the ball. That's perfect. It's about as obvious as it gets. So we got our work cut out for us on defense. We have to improve quickly.
Jared Goff threw for 292 yards and 2 scores. He caught a touchdown from Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was 18 for 18, the most throws without an incompletion in NFL history. The league said yesterday it found insufficient evidence to punish free agent kicker Brandon McManus over allegations he sexually harassed 2 flight attendants on the Jaguars' flight to London last fall. The women's lawyer says they still have not spoken to the league, and their lawsuit does continue. On the eve of the postseason, Pete Rose has passed away at 83. Rose found by a family member, cause of death unknown at the moment, but he was at a signing event over the weekend in the Vegas area. Now, all 4 wildcard series begin today. The Astros and Tigers are first in Houston at 1:30 Central. Away from all of that, the Giants fired their president of baseball operations, Farhan Zaidi, yesterday, replaced him with Buster Posey. Their 37-year-old former catcher has had an increased front office role recently, but has no actual experience in running a team. But now he runs a team.
He's only 37, Buster Posey?
Yeah, because he stopped playing a little earlier than you would have expected. But only like 3 years ago?
I think, Maggie, we got to put him in our group of players who are young, retired players who are younger than we thought.
Yeah, with Richard Sherman and the rest of the Legion of Boom,
The
who are
Legion
like
of
25
Boom,
years old.
RG3.
RG3 is so young.
Yeah, Andrew Luck is still in his 30s, I think. Yeah, this is he's good.
RG3 is the most startling of the group.
I know.
He's like 32 or something.
Cam Newton is still
I think he's
totally
34.
prime age.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he can't. Cam Newton can't be 34. You might be right, but that's crazy.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. He is 35.
It's amazing. Like, why is it in the NFL? It's just bizarre to me.
Also, the player going straight to the front office. We've seen this a lot with the player going straight to managing or coaching, and that can be a mixed bag, but straight to the front office.
Is that it totally?
Steve Kerr did
Steve
it.
Kerr, right?
Steve Kerr did it. He did have some experience. He didn't actually. The only thing Posey, he at least has been in the room.
Right.
Like, they've been grooming him kind of for this position. So it's not totally like Kerr, I think, went from like being an announcer to
Well,
running a team.
why? I'm just curious. What is it about Buster Posey to be front office instead of a manager? I mean, catcher feels like he's custom made to be a manager.
That's what you think too, but I guess the manager position's kind of been taken over by the front office, right?
Right.
Well, yeah,
That's exactly why.
Who's really got the power? Definitely the front office, and also you don't have to do the travel. You still have to travel a lot, but not the day-to-day grind of the team.
I also think there's a better chance for Posey to be the face of the team as a president than as a manager. I think if you're, especially in today's baseball, like if you're the manager, I just think it doesn't really matter anymore, unless you're like a Buck Showalter type or something like that. I feel like he's the president. And he's like not signing the checks, but he's sending out the checks and he's building the roster. I think that he could be almost like a Derek Jeter with the Marlins kind of role.
Yeah, that went well.
Did not go well. Oh, no. I'm rooting for him, though. This is really cool.
I wonder if they go really big after Soto or something like that to try to give him like a big...
Well, they try to get Judge.
They try to get Judge.
They actually went down a win this year after paying Blake Snell and Matt Chapman. They re-signed Chapman to a long-term deal, which apparently was Posey's doing, which is the first signal that something was going on there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they've certainly, in theory, have money to spend.
They had the Judge thing, though, was he was from Northern California. I think they thought they were doing a little bit of a hometown appeal, like the team he grew up rooting for or what have you. I don't think Soto has that same attachment.
This has been their white whale. Like, Giants fans have talked about this a lot, that they can't get that huge free agent. They've been able to get like the mid-level guys or guys who are pretty decent, but like whenever they've tried to get Shohei Ohtani, they tried everybody basically, and for whatever reason nobody wants to take that Bay Area money.
Oh, I'd rather hit home runs at Yankee Stadium.
It's expensive to get a place there.
$400 million doesn't take you where it used to, right?
You can't defer your money in San Francisco. You need it right away for real estate.
Down payment.
Exactly. The Mountain West reportedly close to adding UTEP as its 7th full-time member. It needs one more to remain a conference. Big Ten and SEC ADs reportedly meeting next week in Nashville to discuss their shared futures. They might agree to a scheduling alliance if the SEC goes to 9 league games, and they both apparently want 4 automatic spots in the next CFP format.
Hey, sorry, looking up Cam Newton just reminded me of something. Did you guys see the thing on the sideline with Shador and Travis Hunter and Cam Newton? Can somebody decode this for me? Because basically Travis Hunter and Shador both seem to snub Cam Newton, right? Especially Travis Hunter.
Yeah, no, Shador was the big snub, wasn't he?
I thought it was Travis, but Travis had played for Cam Newton 7-on-7.
Well, they hung out later. There's a picture of them like smiling.
Okay, so that was
Shador,
a joke, I
big
guess?
time. No, I think Well, Cam Newton said that Shador said you're on some kind of drugs and walked away.
Huh.
But my takeaway from that is like I think a lot of NFL scouts watched that video and said, wait a second. How tall is Shador Sanders?
That's what you took away from it?
Yes, he looks like a child next to Cam.
So
I'm like, who's that little kid?
I think it was the camera angle.
No, I think Shador is not tall. I think a lot of people are wondering, wait a second, is he really 6'2", or is he closer to 6 feet?
I mean, is Caleb Williams 6'2"? He just got drafted number 1.
Yeah, but definitely a thing. But like Shador is not big like Caleb.
Cam Newton, though, like he also may be the largest human ever.
Yeah, he's gigantic.
Seeing him in the Super Bowl, I still talk about how big he is.
Yeah,
it's crazy he played quarterback.
He's massive.
But Shador is funny. Like Shador, definitely like everything that happens off the field with him, he courts a little controversy by his should be a meaningless time before and after the game. He brings meaning to.
I kind of like this though. This I liked because basically the word was that like he was like in his pregame routine, and Cam Newton's coming on the field. Like what are you doing? Like
yeah, but they've embraced so many former NFL players at that program. It seems like picking and choosing.
I just feel like I like the focus that they've had. Like I would think Shador would want that photo op there and to kind of be treated like a star there. And he was zeroed in on kicking the crap out of UCF. And guess what they did? I actually really liked it.
Yeah, but
then on the flip side, do you not like when T.O. hugs Travis Hunter at the end of a touchdown?
Yeah.
T.O.'s a special consultant.
Yeah,
he's in uniform on the side.
Whatever.
Yeah. 855-212-4227. Thank you so much, Bogusch. Coming up, we will do our rookie power rankings now that week 4 is in the books.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Lord, Marion High, where Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was a football star, his name was heard. But fast forward now, who's the real champ? Perloff's on the mic while Ernest is just a stamp. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. Well, Artie's got a talent, it's hard to deny. For missing work, like it's pie in the sky. He's the Houdini of the office space, gone without a trace, not a single face. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. face, not a single face. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. Pete's got more excuses than days on the clock. Out sick, on leave, it's always a shock. Perloff's here daily, grinding it out, while Belotti's somewhere on a mystery route. Pete's got more excuses than days on the clock. Out sick, on leave, it's always a shock. Perloff's here daily, grinding it out, while Belotti's somewhere on a mystery route. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. So here's the tale, from nerd to no show. Perloff's still shining while Belotti's a ghost. Ernest is history, Belotti's a myth, but Perloff's on top, and that's the twist.
One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Every Tuesday, we do our rookie power rankings.
Exciting.
Ba-ba-da-ba. No?
Yeah,
No?
so wait.
No liner for this one? That's fine.
We have to decide one thing about it. Is this cumulative, or do we give extra credit for guys coming off big weeks? Because I'm really into one player who's definitely not one of the top 5 rookies, but I'm putting him in there anyway right now.
I think it's week to week. It's a power ranking.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
No, I don't. I want
Okay.
you to go first.
Okay. I'm happy to go first. Nico, did we find it yet? Not yet. All right. I'm going to go. Rookie power rankings, week 4 NFL season. Number 5 on my list is going to be Dominic Pooney, the right guard for the San Francisco 49ers. Love getting some offensive linemen into this mix, and he's been really good going against the Patriots, so maybe not so sure about that and his competition, but he's held up very well. Number 3 on my list, that's where I'm going to put Caleb Williams for this week. Now, the gaudy number is not exactly there, but Caleb Williams is not, you're looking at me funny.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, what number were you at?
4.
Okay, you said number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 on the list.
Oh, I thought we
Williams.
missed 4. Okay.
I'm sorry. Caleb Williams is number 4 on my list.
I'm so sorry to look at you like that. I'm like, wait, is my math off here?
Sorry about
Pooney's
that.
5, Caleb Williams 4.
Caleb Williams is 4 on my list. They get a win. Numbers still aren't amazing, but he actually, if you look at some of the advanced analytics, he's doing some really nice things out there. This is a good spot, I think, for Caleb Williams.
I thought he looked much.
We're getting better.
I definitely saw the same thing.
Yeah, but the Rams are really hurt. 4 on my list. 3 on my list. That's where I'm going to put Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy stepping up big time for the Kansas City Chiefs. Pearl, I know you think he's just a straight-ahead speed guy or whatever you said about Xavier Worthy.
Which, by the way, is what he did, but go ahead.
But scored a touchdown
on straight-ahead speed, long pass.
in a tight game when you already had Rashee Rice, who had left the game. So Xavier Worthy is going to be number 3 on my list. Number 2, give me a little Bucky Irving from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Great game from Bucky Irving. 9 carries, I believe he had. Fantastic. 4th round, 125th pick overall. Give me some Bucky Irving. And then number 1 on my list is going to be Jane Daniels till the end of time. He's otherworldly, completing 80% of his passes. Those are my rookie power rankings.
Okay, I like it a lot. Those were very good.
Thank you.
I'm going to steal some of them, but not steal because all right. Can I start?
Go ahead.
Number 5, I don't want to introduce him. I want to let my friend, a substitute teacher I know, introduce the Chargers wide receiver. I do not want to do that yet. I'm sorry.
Is Ladidi Mekonke. Ladidi Mekonke, are you here?
Ladidi?
It's Ladidi Mekonke.
We got him right here. It's Lad McConkey. There it is.
Boy, your name is Ladidi Mekonke.
That, of course, is Keegan-Michael Key.
Say here. I'm not going to do this all day.
So that is Mr. Garvey, a.k.a. Keegan-Michael Key. Lad McConkey, nice catch in the end zone. Pretty much the whole offense for the Chargers. Number 4, I did put Xavier Worthy on there. Mm-hmm. I think what you were referring to is that he is now going to become an all-around receiver because he has to with Rashee Rice. That was a beautiful fly pattern right there. Number 3, I also had Bucky Irving because I watched that guy. Like, why do these running backs come out of nowhere and be so good immediatally?
Yeah, it was the 9 carries, 65 yards for Bucky Irving.
My number 2, and he's going to be my number 2 for the rest of life, is Malik Neighbors, who's still good. We kind of forgot about him because he was Thursday night. And number 1, obviously, maybe the greatest first month we've ever seen from a rookie quarterback. In fact, undoubtedly the greatest first month, Jaden Daniels.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking history automatically. Although I had a thought, Maggie.
What's that?
Cliff Kingsbury started out like fire every year in Arizona, and then defenses adjusted. Why aren't we talking about that possibility in Washington?
Maybe we should be. And I bet we will if they go on a little bit of a skid.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because the Cardinals could be a good team, but they might be a bad team. It still looks like Jaden Daniels has been playing for 10 years.
Maybe there's a part of this where if Cliff Kingsbury's not the head coach, maybe his team doesn't fade.
I had that thought.
It's possible.
Fade is a relative term. How will they compete against the Cowboys? That's what I really want to see because they're as you predicted, they're in the division mix.
No doubt. 855-212-4227. All right, if there's any rookies that we missed, our top 5 rookie power rankings. I mean, the offensive linemen so far have been really good. You could do a top 5 offensive lineman.
Well, I mean, like, listen, your Chiefs guy got kicked to the curb. You know who the Steelers have a good one? Zach Frazier, who they love.
I'm telling you, one day we should just do top 5 offensive linemen.
Love to.
J.C. Latham was destroying people last night.
I mean, he's looked good. Joe Alt's 100% of the snaps. Crazy. 855-212-4227. All right, coming up, we will discuss the life and complicated legacy of Pete Rose.
You're in a 5-minute break.
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
It's time to say goodbye. From Maggie and Perloff, you spread your wings to fly. You're a curmudgeon, but we love you all the same. With your love for old TV and the board you always take. Goodbye, Pete, you'll be missed every day. From Three's Company to Alf, you kept the oldies in play. Now you're off to...
Oh, people, it's time to say so long. You grumbled and groaned, but we stayed strong. With your love for old shows and your curmudgeon charm. Now you're off to Amy, and we're raising the alarm. Good riddance, people, be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. Offered to run the White Sox, what a plan. But running our show, you were our grumpy old man. With the NBA on NBC playing in your head, we'll carry on now without all that dread. Good riddance, people, be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. Man the boy, but always with a scowl. Now the airwaves will be free of your growl. So here's to a new day without your TV fuss. People out of your gone, but it's good for us. Good riddance, people, be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. So long, people, Roddy, we're glad to see you go. The vibe will be lighter, the laughter will flow.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Crazy day yesterday. Welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Amidst all the sports that was going on with the doubleheader on Monday to finish up the regular season for Major League Baseball with 2 wild card spots on the line. You had double Monday Night Football games last night, another doubleheader. And then we get the sad news that not only did Dikembe Mutombo pass away at 58, Perloff, it was a brain tumor that no one knew about, seemingly. Also, Pete Rose, surprisingly, passed away, 83 years old for Pete Rose. And I think Dikembe Mutombo's legacy is a lot more straightforward. You know, he was an amazing defensive player, right? And his contributions to the NBA, not just as a player, but also as an ambassador and a philanthropist, and what he's done for basketball in Africa, just a little more straightforward. Pete Rose's legacy is extremely complicated because he was such a complicated figure.
Yeah, and still, I thought it was interesting. Not only did Pete Rose's death lead sports shows, it was a #1 story on the national news. He is a important historical figure in America. And that's old-time baseball. Same thing happened when Willie Mays passed. Yeah. Like, there are certain names that are just so iconic, and he's in that list. And I don't think it's just because of his playing, as you mentioned. I think it's the Hall of Fame debate, the gambling thing, but also, too, this was a time when baseball superstars were the most important people in sports. And that is obviously not the case right now. Like, Tom Brady is way more important than any baseball, maybe Shohei. But Pete Rose is just like part of the American fabric of the 20th century. Like, if you think about like Pete Rose, it immediately evokes this image of baseball, and you don't really get that anymore. Same with Willie Mays, by the way, who we recently lost as well. Just there are a few names. Hank Aaron, you say that, just means something. It's a huge, huge name, and Pete Rose, for better or worse, was that big.
Yeah, for sure. And Rose also had the infamy along with the fame, right? The infamy of betting on baseball, denying it, later admitting it, still never admitted that he bet on the Reds to lose. He said he only bet on the Reds to win, but unfortunately Pete Rose's word wasn't really worth a lot because you got the sense he would say anything in the moment to try to just cover his rear end. And I think, being permanently banned from baseball, accepting that lifetime ban, never getting into the Hall of Fame, and we'll see now what the Hall of Fame decides to do. I doubt we're going to see any decisions for a long time, but it would feel a little odd to put him in now. I mean, it was definitely a punishment for him. So now is it more about the fans and what the fans want? Do the fans want to see him have a plaque? Now, he's not going to be around, unfortunately, to enjoy it, but fans of his and what he meant as being the hit leader, most games played, the amount of winning that he did, does that now get honored now that I guess the judgment on him has passed?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. They need to give it some time because it would feel cruel to do it right after he passed away so he couldn't enjoy it. But Andrew Bogusch had a great point earlier in the show that in a few generations or in a few years, people are not going to remember the details. They're just not going to know. They're going to see all-time hit king. There was some controversy. I think eventually he gets in. I just think attitudes towards Hall of Fames in general are softening. First of all, look at some of the people who are already in there.
Yeah, I think that's not great guys.
That's always a valid argument. I just think the heat of what that controversy was just huge. It was 1989. He was kicked out of baseball. He was the story for 5 or 6 years. I think in 10 years from now, people are not going to remember any of that. They're just going to say, "Oh, Pete Rose, super famous, all-time hit king. He should be in."
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they are keeping the known steroid guys out.
Now, I think that'll change too.
All right, now they are.
Don't you think that eventually Barry Bonds' attitudes have changed? I think young people don't care about the controversy. They're like, why isn't he in?
It'd have to be like a veterans committee now because his eligibility is passed.
Same with Pete Rose. Yeah, it'd be some unusual circumstance.
So I guess here's the thing about the argument. Well, the leagues are taking so much money from the gambling companies now. Gambling's not that big of a deal. You still can't gamble on your own sport while you're in your sport. Nothing about that has changed. Just because now, I was going to say Shohei Ohtani. That's a bad example because of his interpreter. If Aaron Judge wants to bet on a college football game, he can still do it.
Right.
So you're taking money from the betting companies, but no one's saying, okay, now it's okay to bet on baseball.
Yeah, a little thing called integrity of the game.
Exactly.
It's actually more important now that gambling is even more popular. It's a big deal. I 100% agree on that. But I do think when it's 2024, we can have a more nuanced conversation about gambling than we used to have. It used to be black and white, sign in every dugout saying, do not bet on baseball. Now that sign is sponsored by DraftKings. So I do think the conversation's just a little more textured.
Yeah, but you still can't do it. Nothing has changed about that aspect.
Definitely.
And as a manager, it's unbecoming, you know? And that's how, listen, for all the amazing things that Pete Rose did on a baseball diamond, there are a lot of things about him that are unbecoming. You know, a lot of things about his personal life that are really unsavory. Whether you think that's to keep out the Hall of Fame or not, you know, there is a character clause, but it's all about playing the game. It's not about your outside character.
But that's important. He did not get caught gambling as a player. So you could put him in as a player.
Right. Didn't get caught.
But he didn't get caught
But he
gambling.
was a player manager at the end. Remember that?
I think he was.
But this was more about his managerial time.
I don't think he was caught gambling while he was a player manager, was he? But that's an important distinction. I would check that.
I know. I don't think he did, but I'm just saying there was some blurred lines there. And unfortunately, I don't think Pete Rose's word, like I said, is worth a lot. Now, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy Pete Rose talking about baseball. And that's some of the more fascinating videos that have come out over time. And when he was in the media, Perloff, you mentioned before a radio show that you were kind of tangentially working on.
Sports Fan Radio. We had Pete Rose. We had the fabulous Sports Babe.
Yeah.
JT the Brick. It was a great network. Sports Fan Radio. I miss those days.
That's a lot of fun. And when he got onto Fox, when he was on the pregame set with Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt and Frank Thomas, I mean, that was a good show. And he was really good at explaining, you know, complicated baseball stuff in a very easy way. And so he liked him as a broadcaster, but then again, more things that just his own self-inflicted stuff and how he sort of played the game but also lived his life. It made it hard, I think, for some people to fully embrace Pete Rose.
I don't know. I think also, like, character's tough. I mean, OJ is still in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If you're going to start playing that game, then, yeah, gambling is different because it affects the game directly, but you can't really talk about you can't talk about the other stuff.
I know. Well, Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, I mean,
it's definitely
not fair, probably.
Out because of character things, not because of
Yep.
baseball stuff. 855-212-4227. Let's hear a little of Pete Rose was on the Brett Boone podcast. Now, this was pretty recent. This was May of 2024. Here is Pete Rose. Let's hear 26, Nico, on the impact of not being in the Hall of Fame.
It's kept me out of the game that I love. Sure, I still do appearances. I still do great at card shows. Because in the eyes of a lot of people, I'm the victim, especially the way baseball is handling gambling today.
Yeah, let's hear more, Rose, on what he believes is the hypocrisy on baseball's stance on gambling now versus when he was banned.
Every time I turn on the TV, it's about gambling. It's about gambling. Update the game on the fifth. You want to bet it after the fifth? Here, take this. This is the odds. This is the odds. This is the odds. I mean, ESPN, they're on top of the odds today, and they let the public know it. And you know, I can see the temptation for players based on how easy it is. You can go to the ballpark now, go up to a window at the ballpark and bet on the game.
Right. More from Pete Rose. He thought he would get into the Hall of Fame, but only after he's passed away.
You think Cooperstown's going to happen one day eventually?
Yeah, but I'll be dead.
Yeah.
They'll wait till I die, and then they'll change of heart and put me on the list, and I'll go from there. But that, you know, I can't blame them, Brett, because I'm the one that screwed up. I'm not going to sit here on your show and blame baseball because I'm suspended. I think the suspension is too long. If you want to know the truth, you know, I paid my time. I put the time in.
Yeah, you know, I think, Perloff, there was a couple things to unpack there. I think that there was a moment, and I think it was around, 2016, 2017, when Pete Rose was doing the Fox pregame show. And I think there was a moment when everyone wanted to embrace him again. He got into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, and that was a big deal, getting welcome, you know, back to that stadium and being in their Hall of Fame. And I think, you know, being on Fox, doing pregame for the World Series, I mean, it's a big spot. And then there were some allegations of some statutory rape that happened in the 70s where he said he thought a girl was 16. She said she was 14 or 15. He was married. And then Fox had to move away from him. But I do think there was a moment where it was trending maybe towards a lot of public sympathy towards Pete Rose.
Oh, yeah. And I think actually we're in a bit of there was a documentary that was well-liked this year that we're at another Pete Rose moment. Yeah, it's weird. Like, honestly, I don't even really want to go through Pete Rose's negative history right now. It just doesn't feel I'm not saying it doesn't feel right. Like, it's no fun because I'm a Phillies fan. So honestly, most Phillies fans are like, God, this guy delivered a championship to a team and a city that desperately needed it in 1980. I love the video of there's a play that is iconic in Philadelphia where Bob Boone, the catcher, drops the ball. Pete Rose drops into Bob Boone's glove. It's like the ultimate Philadelphia sports moment. So I think in Philadelphia, the negative stuff is not front of mind. I think all of the positive stuff is what they remember.
Totally. And this is just his full life, though, right? We're talking about, he's talking about, they're going to put me in the Hall of Fame after I've passed and all this. And I think that there maybe was a trend towards, I don't know if any of the commissioners were going to do this, if Rod Manfred would have done it, or Cooperstown, but I think there was a trend. And then at every turn, it feels like there was something that kind of put the kibosh on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that baseball ever was going to do it, though. They're pretty stubborn.
Then why do it? Then why do it after?
I don't know. Maybe after Manfred, the next guy, as you get farther and farther away from it, it's going to be easier and easier. I mean, nobody's going to even care in 15 years if they put him in or not.
This has been one of those debates, though, that has really withstood multiple generations. Like, Nico is here. He's 25 years old. He's wearing a Pete Rose jersey because his father told him all about Pete Rose. You know, so Pete, I think, has, as we're talking about, as he passed away yesterday at 83, his story has had a way of resonating through multiple generations.
Well, Pete kept it in front of news that would camp out by the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and he made sort of a career out of not being in the Hall of Fame. He even talked about that. He's like, yeah, I admit there's been some positives to this too. If he was in the Hall of Fame, if he was put in whatever year, 1995, we probably would have talked about Pete Rose 500 times less than we have.
That's true. The controversy certainly sells. He's definitely made a fortune probably off of that because he was even doing an autograph signing up until 2 days ago. So,
yeah, and there were many Hall of Famers on that team, and none of them have the notoriety of Pete Rose. Johnny Bench is iconic. Joe Morgan, who passed as well, it was iconic, but they weren't Pete Rose. Just so much going on there.
Yeah, I think there's another part of Pete Rose that resonated with people, which is that he wasn't the most talented guy. Right? There were other baseball players who had more talent. How do you get the most hits? How do you get the most games played? How do you get the nickname Charlie Hustle, which actually started from them kind of Yankees kind of making fun of Pete Rose, like, hey, this guy is someone who sprints to first base on a walk, or climbing up the wall to try to catch a home run that's 100 feet over his head that's clearly leaving the ballpark. And then is like, oh, this guy with eye wash, Charlie Hustle. But he embraced it. And I think there's something that stays with people about that. Did you get every ounce of what your body and mind could put into the game? I think there's nothing more that we hate as sports fans of guys or women who have all the talent in the world and we think they quote unquote wasted it, right? You have all the talent. We'd kill to be you. These people who have natural talent and don't have the work ethic. And Pete Rose didn't have the natural talent of some of the more, more bigger athletes and better athletes, but got every single ounce out of his career.
Yeah, I mean, he did actually. I mentioned in the 60s, like he was actually pretty super talented.
He was
in the
rookie of the year.
Yeah. He was a bit of a stud early in his career. We know a lot of old Pete Rose too, where he was just like, I'm going to get out here and I'm going to grit through this at bat and make him foul off 7 balls and then go in there. He came into the game and he was kind of like a electric player. But yeah, you're totally right. The diving slide was his signature. The hair flying everywhere.
Yeah, the baseball, the helmet gone, all that stuff.
I mean, yeah, through the years, the various haircuts were questionable at best. Didn't seem to want to go off that bowl style that worked great in 1975. I mean, he was killing it.
Yeah, Mark Davis keeping it alive now. Raiders owner.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Pete Rose obviously a great player, and he's such a throwback too. There's no Pete Rose today. In fact, I don't think people would even they'd almost use that as a negative, the Charlie Hustle stuff. More so, I know you said it started as a negative, but it was definitely like the big positive about him. Nobody appreciates hustle now. They appreciate home runs, in my opinion. They appreciate talent. They appreciate Ellie De La Cruz, Shohei Ohtani, Fernando Tatis. I just don't feel like there's like a gritty utility. I mean, he didn't even play one position. He moved all over the place.
Right.
Like, I just don't think a Pete Rose would exist today.
But is Pete Rose kind of like the best possible example of a glue guy? We still like glue guys.
Yeah, but again, you might, but we don't like glue guys. Like, we don't put glue guys in the Hall of Fame necessarily.
No, he's glue guy plus,
Right. I just can't
Glue
even
guys
remember.
aren't generally the National League MVP.
There probably are Pete Rose types. I just can't picture like the stuff he does resonating today. Like, is there anybody who like is a superstar because he gets from first to third really fast?
Yeah, Trey Turner. EJ, you got someone?
I almost feel like because of the way baseball's played now, you just won't see it in baseball, but maybe you'll see this more in football or basketball now. Like, I feel like if you're a Patriots fan, you may feel like a Julian Edelman or a Troy Brown was, embodied the spirit of a Pete Rose. Or if you're a Knicks fan, you may feel like a Josh Hart or Jeremiah Green, like, embodies the spirit. Like, maybe a guy who doesn't score a lot of points or score the most touchdowns, but they're so important because they play so hard and they do the dirty work. In
Draymond's
baseball,
an interesting one.
In baseball, I don't know if you have
Draymond's
that.
a good one. That's a good one.
Draymond,
Yeah.
I mean, that guy plays on the edge.
Yeah.
Like, definitely.
Yeah,
I think
he's a lot, not as much talent, but that being said, I mean, Pete Rose was one of the top 5 most famous players in the game most of his career. Draymond's not quite there.
No, but
Josh
he's a Hall of
Hart's
Famer,
really-
though. Yeah,
That's Draymond is probably the best one. Is there football? It's hard because the quarterbacks are the stars, and you can't have a glue guy quarterback.
Well, according to Alex Smith, who joined us a couple weeks ago, you can have a quarterback who's a glue guy.
Who was his glue guy quarterback? Him?
Yeah. Yes.
I think of a Hines Ward too in the NFL, like a guy who was
Ben-
just blowing people up, one of the best blockers, but also great receiver. Like it's hard. Like, I'm not saying he's a perfect comps, Pearl, but it's just I think you won't find this in baseball anymore. I think it's going to have to be another sport.
Right, like who are the big stars in baseball? They're big, talented. Aaron Judge, Shohei. I just don't see like the little, the second baseman who's going to break up a double play. That's not really what we value anymore.
No, I mean, listen, Mookie Betts plays multiple positions, and he's a hustle guy. And
Yeah, but he's like the best hitter in baseball. He's amazing.
I mean,
He's got an OPS of like 1,000 every year.
you're asking me for qualities.
Yeah, it can't be too good. Mookie Betts is too good. He's too good. There's got to be a glue guy who's gonna help us out here.
Well,
Maybe-
caller, I don't know if we got in the air, but I know they said Luis Arias was someone that
I was wondering about him because he keeps on getting so many hits.
Yeah,
You're saying too good, too good. I mean, Pete Rose was the batting champ 3 years for 3 different years. He was an MVP. He won 3 World Series. I mean, he was very talented. You're asking for somebody who's like the bench player. That's not what Pete Rose was.
Yeah, but we don't even know. I mean, generally, I don't think most people know who the batting champion is every year anymore. That's not really a thing anymore, is it? Like, who is the 2022 batting leader? I'm sure nobody has any idea.
Well,
Rise, maybe.
212-4227.
It probably was him.
Yeah. But generally, like, the game has changed. It's become much more of a home run game.
No doubt. The question today, should Pete Rose be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame posthumously? 80% of you say yes.
Attitudes
I'm
have
wondering
definitely
why,
changed.
though, because nothing has changed about the facts.
Well, I bet you if we did the same poll for Barry Bonds, it'd be a majority too. Maybe not A-Rod because he's A-Rod, but generally I think the attitudes have changed towards the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but see, there's a thing about the steroid guys that's different to me. The steroid guys, I think, why people get upset about that is because you have managers, commissioners, people who are presiding over the steroid era who are getting into the Hall of Fame, but you're keeping these guys out. I also think there's a case that people say Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer before the steroids. That one's a little more of a gray area. We don't know exactly when he started, but we have a pretty good idea. The thing about the Pete Rose, nothing has changed in the facts of what happened.
Yeah, but that's the
He
thing. The
admitted
facts,
that he bet. What
facts
more
fade
did he-
away. I think that's the thing. Like, I just think the actual facts and what the rules were at the time and like nobody's going to dive into that eventually. Eventually, it all sort of kind of filters into history. By the way, Jeff McNeil, 2022 batting king.
Gosh, what happened to that
Oh
guy?
my gosh.
Should have known that one.
I mean, should I? Have you watched Jeff McNeil
Yeah,
play
I was
for
going to
2
say,
years?
I think that it's probably, I don't want to make a Mets commentary here, but didn't miss him.
No, I mean, the crazy thing was he actually started playing okay right before he got hurt, unfortunately. But
Sorry, I didn't really want to do a Jeff McNeil life retrospective here.
He does not
I
have,
just say that
does not have the career of
the
Pete.
things that Pete Rose got recognition for have changed. I think sabermetrics too have played a big part in this. Like hits are not as valuable as they used to be.
Yeah, I think Pete Rose also was all about winning. I don't know about Jeff McNeil. 855-212-4227. Okay. Coming up later in the hour, Brian Kenny's going to join us from MLB Network. Obviously, he does a ton of stuff with the Hall of Fame, so we're curious to get his thoughts on the passing of Pete Rose. We'll also preview a little of the postseason, which starts today. Coming up next, our biggest question mark coming off of the Monday Night Football doubleheader last night. We'll get to that next.
I'll never stop, no, I'll never be done talking about Peter Bellotti, the missing one. Day after day, his shirt's empty and cold, but I'll keep singing cause the truth's been told. Oh, glorious luck, you say I've lost my way, but I don't care, I'll talk about Peter all day. You think it's a problem, well maybe that's true, but I'll never quit, got stuck like glue. I say I've lost my way, but I don't care, I'll talk about Peter all day. You think it's a problem, well maybe that's true, but I'll never quit, yeah, I'm stuck like glue. Peter Bellotti's gone, is he dodging the fight, or just taking naps, avoiding the light? I don't need help, I'm doing just fine, I'll keep ranting about Peter till the end of time. Dodging the fight, or just taking naps, avoiding the light. I don't need help, I'm doing just fine. I'll keep racing about Peter till the end of time. Oh, glorious black, you say I've lost my way, but I don't care, I'll talk about Peter all day. You think it's a problem, well maybe that's true, but I'll never quit, got stuck like glue. Call it obsession, call it what you will, but Peter Bellotti's missing and I'll talk about it still.
Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. I had a note to myself. I was watching football this weekend, and I saw an incredible defensive play and said, this is going to be the Navy Federal Credit Union Defensive Player of the Week. And that man was?
Fred Warner.
Oh, come on, Maggie.
What?
How'd you know it was Fred Warner?
I thought the same thing. Well, I actually thought Jonquel Jones might actually win it because EJ loves watching the WNBA, and rightfully so. So I wasn't sure. She's a low defense.
I had Fred Warner.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Touchdown.
No, was it obvious? I don't know, because then he left the game injured. Like, he didn't really do much the rest of the game.
Let's see. Who else? Are we close?
I mean, that's not the answer. So
no.
But, I mean, similar position. I'm going with Troy Anderson from the Falcons for Defensive Player of the Week. He had an interception, pick 6. He also had 17
that was pure luck.
He had 17 tackles in the Falcons' win over the Saints, division rival. Had to get that game.
He didn't even make the best play on that interception. Like, that was, I'm sure that was Judon just terrorizing Derek Carr.
I know, but you know what? He made the play. He could have dropped the ball. He didn't. He scored a touchdown in a game where they won by only 2 points. And he had 17 tackles. It wasn't like he was just sitting around doing nothing. He was flying around the field. So I'm giving it to Troy Anderson.
I'm sorry. I have a little issue here.
Oh, gosh.
Fred Warner was not obvious. I just think that you are just reading my notes, or we just been together too much. You're just like,
I'm cheating off your paper.
No,
Why would I ever do that?
Wait, I just think maybe like we've been like, how would you have guessed Fred Warner? Like, it was like, you're like Fred Warner. I'm like, this is my big reveal here. I just think it's uncanny that you knew I was going to go with Fred Warner.
Well, if he's an all-pro who scored a defensive touchdown,
yeah, but
this
he
is
really
not exactly
But it was in the probably
trigonometry.
The lowest rated game of the weekend. Like, nobody was watching that game. It was like totally on the last corner of my 4 box. I just, I can't believe you got Fred Warner.
I can't believe you accused me of cheating off your homework.
No, I didn't even write it. By the way, I never even wrote it down anywhere. There was nowhere to cheat off.
Bogusch is here with that line. Say, Bogusch.
Oh, hey, guys. How are you? Jared Goff made NFL history last night in Detroit, but almost didn't.
I threw the one out of bounds. That ended up being offensive pass interference. And I was like, does that count? I didn't know if that counted. I didn't know if that counted or not. But yeah, it's a good day.
That incompletion did not count, so Goff went 18 for 18 in the Lions' 42-29 shootout win over the Seahawks. Those are the most completions without a miss in a single game ever. The previous record was Kurt Warner going a measly 10 for 10 back in 2005. Goff threw 2 scores. He caught one while David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs, reached the end zone 3 total times. It took all of that to hand Geno Smith in Seattle their first loss.
The only team that went undefeated was the 72 Dolphins. So, we're just trying to go out there and win every game we can. And, today we didn't get it done, but that's why we got next week. So we're going to improve and get back on it and get ready for next week.
Geno threw for 395. His offense outgained Detroit 516 to 389, but a DK Metcalf fumble, some costly penalties, and some inconsistent defense did them all in. The quarterback situation's the problem with the Dolphins. Snoop Huntley only threw for 96 yards in his first start for the Fins, a 31-12 home loss to the previously winless Titans.
So you wish you have like 1,000 reps that you done went through the playbook, but it is what it is. I'm here, just got to hold in on it more.
The Titans lost Will Levis to a right shoulder issue on their second drive in this one. Mason Rudolph finished the game, posting just 9 completions and 85 yards. But Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears scored on the ground, and Nick Folk nailed 5 field goals again to win 31-12.
Hey, did you guys notice something that Tajay Spears, when he lined up in the Wildcat, and they took a timeout, and then they came out of the timeout and he was still lined up in the Wildcat? I was like, wow, that's disrespecting the defense. Like,
I love that.
We showed you what we're doing. It's going to be a trick play, and then we're going to do it again. And he scored.
I think more teams should actually do that. I feel like a lot of times they will get out of it, and then the next play is always terrible. Like whatever the second call is gets just stuffed, and it's like, you know what? Just run the first play you had. You prepared for it. They adjusted. If you're better, go run the play, and then they were better.
And that's how they scored.
Yeah.
It was a game light on touchdowns.
Before we leave that game, I've been trying to figure out this free kick, onside kick thing last night. So my new question is, so when you do an onside kick, you declare it, right?
Right.
And then
they declared this one.
The ball's got to go at least 10 yards, but it also can't land out of the sky like it did last night past the landing zone.
But nobody knew that rule.
Right, but now I knew confusion is the penalty on a normal kickoff would put the ball at the 20-yard line for the offensive team. So you'd be 20 yards from the end zone, I think.
Wait, what?
So like this is what's confusing is how it was marked off last night now. I understand why it was a penalty, but now I'm confused reading the rule why the ball went half the distance from the kicking spot, which was the 20-yard line because it was a free kick off a safety, and now you're at the 10-yard line.
See, this was your first mistake was following Perloff down any rabbit hole.
I think the NFL has to release a statement today because Callahan went bananas. He did not understand what was happening.
Because he wanted his guys to fair catch it. Because I think that was the instruction coming off the sideline was if it's in the air like that, fair catch it. And because if you leave, you have to field a kick. A kick's a live ball. Had the Dolphins,
but that was not. But right, okay.
If that had bounced in the right spot and the Dolphin touched it, they could have kept running with it for a touchdown.
So nobody knew what's the landing zone. How far does it go?
It's whatever it normally is, right? Where those guys where they stand normally. What is the landing zone? Is the area between the receiving team's goal line and its 20-yard line.
Right, but this landing zone was different
because it was a free kick, not a kickoff, and it was starting from the 20, not the 35. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, the officiating expert threw up his hands at the end. He said, I'm not sure what happened.
I love that if the officiating expert couldn't figure it out, I love that you guys think that we're going to figure it out.
The referee couldn't even announce it. He didn't even know what to say to explain what was happening.
I think what happened was if he just catches the ball like a regular fair catch, they get it at the 50 because that's where the ball would have landed. Because he didn't catch it, that comes with a penalty from the 20-yard line that pushed him back 10 yards, I think is what happened. I think you have to catch the ball because otherwise there's no incentive to ever catch a free kick. If that's the case. Bigger
issue is like nobody understands the kickoff rule. I mean, something happened on Sunday too where there was confusion about landing zones. It is it's definitely overly complicated. If you're European and trying to get to know football, like why are you adding all this crap?
Oh, I didn't even think about it. Of course, we're sending games to London this week.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be super confused.
Why are they going to call back every single touchdown on a holding? And like, are they going to have 14 illegal procedure calls? Like, are they going to stop with the flags? Because that makes it a horrible product.
Well, you got to take one thing at a time here. Either you can gripe about the free kick landing zone or you can gripe about the flags. We can't have both in the same segment. You got to pick one.
It's not a gripe. I love it. I mean, the chaos is wonderful.
There should not be, I mean, to be honest, off of a safety, there shouldn't be an onside kick. Like, if you have a safety, you shouldn't then be able to then try to get the ball back. Like, you made a bad play. It's not scoring a touchdown or scoring a field goal and saying, all right, we need to get the ball back.
By the way, you want to talk about crazy plays. Jared Goff's safety, like, that was like,
I forgot about that.
The rules on that were like, wait, what just happened? That was not forward progress. Jared Goff reached the ball out of the end zone, and they originally put it at the 1, and then they made it a safety. And
they went to commercial break.
Yeah,
and
the
then
officiating expert's like,
it.
I love this call, and everyone's like, what? Why? I don't understand what just happened. Football, the Europeans and other people just maybe like, what are these bizarre rules?
Well, and they maybe don't want the NFL to start jamming it down their throats and sending all these games over there. Like, it's. I don't think the Brazil game did what they thought it was going to do.
I totally disagree. I think it was a one-off. Like, did they sell out that stadium? I think
sellouts don't mean what you
I think they were thrilled with Brazil. NFL was thrilled. You mean Brazil wasn't happy, or
I just don't know if it's really going to catch on. And by the way, we know this about the NFL. It's not about whether you can actually go to a game in person. It's all about whether you can watch it on TV.
And people bought Peacock for that game.
And
that for sure happened. People signed up for Peacock.
Yeah, Packers and Eagles fans.
And I went to London to see the Mets play, and I'm wearing the London hat today. I was there. I just feel like I don't know if any of these locals care that we're there. Like, I was at this game, and it was all Americans.
It was basically the entire office.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Americans, like random people we don't know. It was people from this office.
Yeah, like, I don't know if the locals are, like, going to these games. Like, they sold out, but I would guarantee you 99% maybe 85% of those fans are actual.
Just expats.
Yeah.
Right. But if they, like a country like Brazil, if they increase their sales in Brazil by 5%, like that's 5% better than that. That's a huge deal to the NFL. There's no other there's no market to tap in America. As Robert Kraft said, we know 150 million Americans are going to watch the Super Bowl. Now we have to start just 5% more Brazilians is 5% more than they had last year. That's a huge number. I think I think they're loving this.
You're right about that. I just feel like it's unfortunate that they don't care about the quality of the game, though, because they're increasing the games and the quality is poor. They put those guys on that terrible field where guys could have got hurt, and you had a really bad game. Like, it was not well played, and, well, they made more money. Like, I know that's America, that's capitalism, but that also sucks.
That's super funny on a Tuesday morning. Come on, EJ, you know how this works. The field was bad. They care about the bottom line, and that's it.
No, you're right. It just sucks. I mean, I totally agree. I'm not saying that you're wrong, actually. It just, that realization of setting in, like, wow, like, we did lose a quarterback. I was going to say we could have lost a quarterback in that field. Oh, wait, we actually did. And you know what? It still doesn't matter.
Fix the fields in the U.S. How about that?
Lastly, from the NFL, we're roughly 40 hours removed from Chiefs-Chargers, and Casey apparently still doesn't know exactly what's wrong with Rashee Rice's knee. Tests so far have not confirmed the suspected torn ACL. And we finished with the Portland Trailblazers. Full rebuild now at Damian Lillard in Milwaukee. And that rebuild has Scoot Henderson at its center. The second-year guard was asked at Media Day yesterday what his biggest lesson from his rookie season was.
I look back at the food, the good food that I had. Yeah, a lot of the food. And then, you know, what I've learned from it.
The audio is only a third of this. If you can find the video, and it's out there, of this young man who seems to be having the munchies at the moment. I don't know what Scoot was doing before he got there, but there's a reason why food was top of mind when he sat down and glass-eyed, looping eyes looked into the camera and answered this question.
Wow.
Yeah.
The second overall pick?
There's a lot going on here.
I'm going to run and look at this video.
I think it might be over for Scoot Henderson. I hate to say that just from a video that I haven't seen yet, but that sounded crazy.
Wow.
Wait till you see his face, EJ, as he's saying, food, man.
Great food
and
town.
And the things I learned from it.
Portland's an amazing food town. I totally get where he's coming from.
Oh, yeah.
Tasty and Alder, my favorite restaurant. Portland, you can't help but love the food there.
I'm not saying you shouldn't love the food there. You should just go eat, not do anything to make you hungrier before you go.
Wow, that's not Portland.
All right, well, maybe he's getting a little too comfortable in his new hometown. Thank you, Bogusch. Coming up, Brian Kenny from MLB Network will remember the life of Pete Rose with us. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break.
I'll never stop, no, I'll never be done talking about Peter Bellotti, the missing one. Day after day, his chair's empty and cold, but I'll keep singing cause the truth's been told. Oh, glorious, you say I've lost my way, but I don't care, I'll talk about Peter all day. You think it's a problem, well maybe that's true, but I'll never quit, got stuck like glue. Maggie was sneaking in the back of the class, orange and Perloff scribbling, knew she had to act fast. The question on the page, yeah, looked kinda tough, but Maggie leaned in cause cheating ain't that rough. She copied every word, thought she had it made. The answer was Fred Warner, a linebacker upgrade. But no one's talking football, no one's looking that way, cause we're stuck on the fact that Peter Bellotti's gone today. She copied every word, thought she had it made. The answer was Fred Warner, a linebacker upgrade. But no one's talking football, no one's looking that way, cause we're stuck on the fact that Peter Bellotti's gone today. Peter Bellotti, where you at? We can't ignore the truth. You haven't been to work since who knows what or who. No matter what glorious spot might think or say, we'll keep single day.
Scoot, now that you have a couple months of distance from it, kind of what do you look back on about your rookie season and kind of what you learned from it?
I look back at the food, the good food that I had. Yeah, a lot of food. And then, what I've learned from it. You know what I'm saying? Just all the...
Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So yesterday, as we said, was an odd sports day. Thrilling, exciting in a lot of ways. The two baseball games to decide the last two wildcard spots in the NL. You had a double header on Monday Night Football, but also the passing of two legendary figures. One was Dikembe Mutombo, who we did not know was suffering from brain cancer, brain tumor, and also Pete Rose, who passed away at 83. He had reportedly been at a autograph signing just 2 days before. And obviously, the legacy of Pete Rose is one that's very complicated for baseball and then betting on baseball. For that, we turn to award-winning broadcaster for both baseball and boxing, and that's Brian Kenny of MLB Network. Brian, thanks so much for the time this morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Maggie.
So we want to talk with you about Pete Rose and the full picture of the person. But let's start with the baseball. Of all the remarkable things that he did on a baseball diamond, to you, Brian, what stands out the most?
Well, he represented something. I know for those of us who were, around for it when we were younger and we saw him, he was like John Wayne. He was the guy that your dad would point to and say, that's who you're supposed to play like. And he was on the field just kind of the ultimate winner. And for those who grew up at a time where everything is associated with his gambling, I think that's easily forgotten. But for those who saw him play, he was remarkably consistent. You could see for 15 years he averaged 158 games played. So he almost never missed a game. He was leading off. He was a switch hitter. He hit for high average. He hit for 200 hits just about every single season. And he had this relentless drive. So he was kind of the engine of the Big Red Machine, along with, of course, Johnny Bench and Joe Morgan, great players. But he was the spark. He represented something, and he was truly an all-time great. There's no question he's up there with it. You're putting together a team, even, I love the stats and everything else, but if you're putting together a team that you want to win on the field, Pete Rose is on that team.
Brian, now it's a different time in baseball. Would Pete Rose's skills translate the same way today? And do we have any kind of guys like that in today's game?
Oh, no question. I mean, he would adapt to whatever was there. He wasn't a power hitter, but look, he was. We have guys like Luis Arraez now, who are winning batting titles and are, very impactful players. Except, he was doing it with a high on base. He did it with decent slugging as well. He's actually the live ball doubles leader. So if you can hit doubles and you can have 200 hits a season with about 80 walks, you can do anything. So Rose was never the most talented player even during his time, but his drive got him there. So no, he played a very different game. I know what you're saying, Andrew. He's a batting average guy, but Rose would adapt. Whatever the circumstances were, whatever the environment would be, Pete Rose would adapt to that environment and take it to you.
Brian Kenny is joining us. He's the award-winning broadcaster, MLB Network, baseball, boxing as well, has done so much. So obviously Pete Rose's story is not just what he did on the baseball diamond, Brian. We all know that. Betting on baseball, denying it at first, eventually admitting it in a book, being banned from the sport, and also being taken off the ballot for the Hall of Fame. Do you think now that Pete Rose has passed away, does anything change with regards to the Hall of Fame, do you think?
It's funny. Today, a lot of people were saying that to me, but I really don't think so. I don't see there being a groundswell of support behind that. It would have to, there'd have to be a change in the rules that, to get he's on the permanently ineligible list. There'd have to be a change in the rules. He'd have to get on a veterans committee, and then he'd have to be voted on. And I don't see that happening. I think he had a decent chance years back when he was getting a fresh look, but there was too much association with gambling at the point, too much association, with things that he was doing in Las Vegas, and he just didn't leave that part of his life completely behind, which would have given him a new opportunity to get on a veterans committee. So I don't expect that. I know through the years it's been very polarizing debate. Because what he did during his playing career, I don't think anybody anticipated, even when he was being banned at the time, that it would lead to what it led to. But again, his denial of it for a good 13, 14, 15 years led to it kind of cementing in place.
Brian, we talked to a lot of young fans who seem to have a different attitude towards the Hall of Fame when it comes to the PED guys like Barry. I know a lot of young people will say, just put Barry Bonds in. Do you think in 10, 15 years, some of the controversy will fade away and everyone will view a lot of these, Curt Schilling, Pete Rose, Barry Bonds differently as the heat cools down over time?
Well, look, it's changed dramatically even in 10 years because at the time, when they first hit the ballot, most people, the PED players, it was pretty solid that these guys, should not be honored because that's what it's about. You're honoring somebody, and I can see that with Rose as well. But attitudes do change, and after a while, you're just reading about history. You're not living it. You didn't live through it, and as we know, history is seen through a very different prism by those who didn't live through it. So, yeah, I would see that changing. Obviously, thoughts on gambling have changed, but at the time and place where Rose was playing, it was pretty clear that the line was there and he had crossed it.
Brian Kenny is joining us, the award-winning broadcaster. MLB Network does a fantastic job. Do you have any personal Pete Rose stories, Brian?
I just loved talking baseball with Pete. Came across him a number of times after he had retired. Remember, he was a broadcaster for a while as well. He had gotten on Fox. And that's part of the shame of it, too, is that he had this incredible baseball mind. Always loved talking baseball. Always saw things that people didn't see. Saw things analytically within his own computer. And being out there for fights in Las Vegas, Pete was a regular who was out there. So I always loved, dropping in and trying to get, just a few minutes of baseball knowledge from Pete. I know the guys and worked with many people who played for him as a manager, and they loved playing for him. So there's a lot there. As I say, very complicated. But, it's funny, I would see Pete in Vegas, and he'd also be a regular in Cooperstown because there was a kind of a Pete Rose, yearly convention when he came in, and it became bigger than if he was just in the Hall of Fame. That kind of became more of a public debate than if he had just been inducted and just became one of the, the regulars at the Hall. So, yeah, I'd seen Pete a lot through the years, always had a lot of sympathy for him, and, to talk baseball with him was always a pleasure.
Brian, just to change the topic for a second, the playoffs starting. You remember the Billy Beane quote about how the playoffs are totally kind of a crapshoot. Feels more that way than ever with the Diamondbacks getting the World Series last year, the Phillies the year before that. I'm a Phillies fan, but the fact that they're division winners does not give me any confidence because I feel like there's a certain chaos of recent playoffs. Is that how you're seeing this coming postseason?
Yeah, there's a lot of randomness. I would say one thing, like the division champions are put on ice for a few days. They don't play until Friday or Saturday, and that's a lot of days off. The teams that are playing the wild card will definitely get a lot of work this week. However, when you see what the Mets and the Braves just went through, there certainly is an advantage. Like you'd rather be the division champions than one of those clubs because they're playing again today. Braves come right back. They have no pitching playing the Padres. Mets come right back going up against the Brewers. So it did actually incentivize and give the division champions a big edge on the teams that had to run themselves ragged at the end of the season. Once everybody is rested, yeah, I'm kind of convinced too. Home, away, whatever the division series is, whatever your record was, there was no 100-win teams this year. There is a lot of randomness to it. People, I seem to love that. I loved the super teams that would rise in, but if you want this type of tournament, baseball is baseball, and you're going to have just a lot of crazy things happening.
Brian, we just have about a minute or less left, and thank you again for joining us, Brian Kenny from MLB Network. Who do you think is feeling more pressure in this postseason, Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani?
Probably Judge, I would think. I think Ohtani was so hot through September that he's going to be fairly loose. He doesn't have the track record. Judge doesn't have a great postseason track record yet. I think that will take care of itself, but it's difficult. You saw the way he was pitched even over the weekend, and I don't think he's going to get many good balls in the strike zone. So I think there's much more pressure on Judge. Now, Judge was the best player all year, but there's more ways to get after him, more ways to avoid him now, even with Anthony Rizzo hurt. So I think there's going to be more pressure on Judge.
Brian, we know it's going to be a very, very, very busy month for you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day for us to remember Pete Rose and his legacy, and have fun with the postseason.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Appreciate that. You watch Brian Kenny on MLB Network.
Feeling a little nervous. He does bring up a good point about the wear and tear on the Braves and the Mets, which I know you've openly blamed MLB for some scheduling faux pas, but Maggie, I'm telling you, you do not worry about that. Baseball momentum means a lot too. Like they're feeling it. They're feeling it. It's just baseball.
They're probably feeling a hangover today as they head to Milwaukee.
But there's so many great athletic performances where guys later say they were hungover. David Wells, Max McGee in the first Super Bowl. Like, that can be a good thing. You're loose. You're not thinking about anything else. You just want to get that headache to go away.
Get hydrated. Yesterday was very thrilling. Both the Mets and the Braves fans got a little something to celebrate. Their teams get into the postseason, and now we get the full menu today.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, EJ Stewart. Thank you to Nico Scarlottos. Thank you to Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Weedos, the coffee drinkers. Back tomorrow. You know what Wednesday means. Great debate.
Ooh.
Big one for you tomorrow. Stay tuned. Maggie and Perloff.